Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the ATACS podcast that was actually recorded before ATACS was an official thing. That's why I'm providing this additional intro, because you'll find no mention of ATACS in the normal recording. This was recorded on August 6, 2016, and includes regular ATACS members myself, who is Flex. It also includes Ryan, Paul, and Nate. What this is a ranking of the Super Mario games, where we debated, argued, and ultimately came up with an ordered list of what we thought were the best, or more accurately, our favorite Super Mario games. Hope you enjoy listening, and thanks. All right, we are live. We are here today to apply some science to the world of Super Mario. We are going to rank all of the Super Mario games. What qualifies as a Super Mario game we have already determined and assembled a list of 17 games. Before I read off the games, I will introduce our panel of scientists here. I am Justin Fowler. To my left is the beautiful Nathan Fowler.
Hey, hi.
Across from me is Stone Cold Paul Green.
Hello.
And to my right is General Snyder.
That's me.
And with that, I suppose I will read off our 17 contenders here. And we are going... Our goal here is simply just to order all 17 of these games from what we consider to be the best Mario game to the worst Mario game. The games in the ring are listed in... So initially, I have this list in order of chronological release date. So first is the original Super Mario Bros. After that is Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, or the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2. We're just going to call it Lost Levels from here on out. Super Mario Bros. 2, and this is the US version, so whenever we say Super Mario Bros. 2, we're talking about the US version. Then Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Land, Super Mario World, Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, New Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Galaxy, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Super Mario 3D Land, New Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. U, and Super Mario 3D World. That's a lot of Mario games.
That's a lot of Mario.
We killed the all meaning of the words New Super Mario and Bros.
Yes, I've already said those way too many times. So yeah, the way we're going to do this, Ryan, do you want to explain our format here?
Yeah, so basically the way we're going to approach this list is, instead of going item by item or line by line, we're just going to start out with the top and bottom buckets of probably some number around 5, about a third of the list. So blood and extra lives and coins will be shed, as we're going to start with the bottom of the list. The worst bucket of games on our Mario list.
And really, when you're talking about the worst Mario games, that just automatically is where Mario Sunshine goes. I think that's probably the easiest one on the list to say is somewhere in the bottom bucket.
But Super Mario Sunshine does not have the word new in the title.
It also does not have the word you in the title.
Wait. By Sunshine, did you mean Galaxy?
Oh, jeez.
We're not even going there.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do with this now.
We're starting at the bottom of the list, Ryan. Just make sure you have this down pat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are we gonna argue about whether or not Sunshine goes in the bottom, somewhere in the bottom 5 or 6, or
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess that
Sunshine
game
would
is
not
up for
be at the
nomination.
bottom of my list, but
Yeah, I'm
What-
not sure where that might be more middle-ish for me. I'm not sure.
although
What is who does anyone else have any affinity for that game?
affinity for Sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, like I had some frustrations with Sunshine as a Super Mario 64 sequel. I felt like it fell way short there, but just as like a game that was fun to pick up and play, like I actually remember enjoying it. Like
Yeah, I remember liking it just fine.
sprinkler spin jumping all over the place on the tropical island, Delfino. Yeah, I guess, and you know, I guess we're starting to get into the bottom of the bucket. You know, one thing that's tricky for me, there are a few of these games I haven't played, but I don't feel like there's necessarily like a terrible Mario game. Like
No.
some that are kind of mediocre and uninspired,
Yeah.
but nothing that just sticks
And
out to me
that's-
as like I hate this game.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, and that's why I'm asking about Sunshine is because like for me it would probably be around the middle of my list, but I don't feel like super strongly about it. So like, and this is all relative to Mario games. So like, I don't think it's a bad game, but in like the context of Mario games, like if people have real problems in it, maybe it'd be in the bottom.
So, Sunshine aside, what are some other games? I can understand frustrations with that game, although it certainly would not be in my
So
bottom.
I'd actually like to talk about New Super Mario Bros. 2, which only Paul has played, because that game just like I didn't want to play it because it seemed just like a very straightforward, almost cash grabby. Like, hey, we're just churning out another New Super Mario Bros. Game.
Well, yeah, and that's certainly a valid criticism. But what I will say about New Super Mario Bros. 2 is that it did do some different things than New Super Mario Bros. I enjoyed playing through it. I played through the entire game once, and then I went back and did some of the secrets, started collecting some of the giant coins. So, I mean, the game to me stood out well enough to where I would say that if you were going to put New Super Mario Bros. Say at number 7 on this list, and I'm just making up numbers. If you put New Super Mario Bros. At number 7, I would put New Super Mario Bros. 2. I would put it beneath it just because it is similar, but I would not say that it would be any more than, say, 2 or 3 spots behind wherever you end up putting New Super Mario Bros. 1. Because like they did do some different stuff. A lot of the gameplay did feel similar, but it was just dissimilar enough to where I didn't regret buying it and I didn't regret playing it. But I don't know that I would put it in the bottom bucket. It might start to get there as we sort of move further on through this process, but it was not significantly worse than the first one.
Okay. These new Super Mario Bros. Games are tricky for me because they're like all the same in my mind.
Yeah, those are ones I haven't played, so those are kind of
Yeah.
a lot of them, except for the Wii.
Yeah, I think Nate and I were the only ones that probably played the Wii U version. Would anyone be opposed to just going ahead and saying New Super Mario Bros. U is in the bottom bucket?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
No opposition here.
Wonderful.
And that game was fine. Like the Wii U one was fine, but it was just like I played like half of it, and the whole feeling was just like, yep, here's another one.
Yeah, that's a case of what you were sort of asking about with New Super Mario Bros. 2, where this is relative to the New Super Mario Bros. Wii. It's just kind of more of the same and not really.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it would be perfectly reasonable to put New Super Mario Bros. 2 in the bottom bucket, but then I would not expect to see New Super Mario Bros. 1 in the top bucket.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say this. New Super Mario Bros. 1 is the only new Super Mario Bros. Game I have, like, any respect for. Because, like, that one was, like, a fun throwback. It was like, oh, like, here they're coming out. It's been, like, 2 decades since the original Super Mario Bros. And they're doing this throwback 2D style, like, after doing a bunch of 3D games. And, like, that was a neat thing. And then the next 3 new games, just like, I mean, they weren't new anymore at that point. And like, they just kept churning those out and all felt very uninspired to me. So like, if it's up to me, I would put all of the new ones except the first one in the bottom bucket.
That's interesting. I enjoyed the Wii. The Wii is the only new game I played, and maybe that gives it, a little different frame of reference for me.
And I guess that's kind of what I'm saying about the first one is like, when I played the first one, it was fine, but then like as I played more of them, they just got less and less interesting.
Yeah. And
so if the Wii one was the first one you played, like I could see that occupying that spot for you.
Well, and I think the Wii one did bring something slightly different from what New Super Mario Bros. The first one did, because that was the 4-player co-op wackiness.
Yeah, I remember it, and some of the things that I remember from the Wii version, I don't know if they were in the original DS version, but the co-op wackiness it was almost unplayable, but it was kind of fun to mess around with.
Yeah, it's unplayable in a funny way.
Yeah. I also remember, some of the stuff that you see in Mario Maker also being in the Wii version, like the spin jumps and the wall jumps and the stomps and things like that. So I don't know.
Was the twirly hat in the first New Super Mario Bros? Like the little propeller hat?
I think so.
No, they had the twirly platforms, but I don't remember the actual twirly hats.
Okay.
They had
I don't know which
Super
game.
Mega Mushroom in that first one, didn't they?
Mega Mushroom was in the first one. I remember that.
I think maybe the twirly hat was in the Wii version, and then I guess in the Wii U as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Wii, the first Wii version, wasn't a complete copy paste of the.
I have a wiki here, so I can check power-ups if needed.
For me, for the new games, I think I somewhat enjoyed New Super Mario Bros., the first one on the DS, as a single-player Mario. That being said, I'm probably on the outside in terms of most people, in that I don't have like a strong passion for traditional 2D Mario platforming, which is maybe I should just get kicked off of this thing for saying that, but but as far as those types of games go, like I enjoyed the DS one fine. I liked the Wii one because it was a little different and the co-op of it, and then Wii U just felt like, oh, there's more of this, and it didn't.
I can't remember, did the Wii U have the same co-op the Wii one had?
Yeah.
Okay. That co-op stuff, it was kind of fun in a goofy way, but man, it made actually trying to beat levels like a nightmare.
Yeah, it does. But it was something different that I hadn't had in a Mario game before, so...
And it was like, even if everyone was actively trying to work together, it still made it harder.
Yeah, which they never were, at least with the people I played that game with.
Right. It really encourages you to be the biggest troll you can be.
Yeah. So I don't have any bad feelings towards either the DS one or the Wii one. I have pretty middling feelings, I would say, about the Wii U one, which is why I said I would be totally fine putting that on the bottom.
And that's part of why, I jokingly said all the games with the word new in it go at the bottom, but the word I kind of come back to is middling, because I just in the grand scheme of the Mario Pantheon, nothing about them really stand. They're fine, they're good games, they're fun games to play, but they don't really stand out to me a lot.
See, and the only one that I'll disagree with you on is the first New Super Mario Bros. For the DS.
Yeah, I like the first one.
When I played that game, that was the first 2D Mario game that I played that was one of those where it's wow, I'm having as much fun with this right now on my DS as I was when I started first playing Super Mario World or Super Mario Bros. 3. It was pretty high on my list of 2D Marios for a while there. And since then I've gone back and played more of the 2D Marios. But so I don't know that I put it quite as high, but at the time I really thought that New Super Mario Bros. For the DS, before all the other sequels came along, I really thought that one did something that was kind of special. So I would have a problem putting that particular one at the very bottom bucket, but the rest of them, I think I agree with you guys.
Yeah, I agreed not putting the original one in the bottom bucket.
New Super Mario Bros. Games aside, I am happy to nominate a few non-new games for the bottom bucket, and we can
let's go ahead and suss out the new stuff before we move on, just to get it ironed out. I feel safe saying the first new Super Mario Bros. Should not go in the bottom bucket.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree.
Would we be okay putting New Super Mario Bros. 2 in the bottom bucket?
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
I have no opinion on that. Since
It's at the top of the bottom bucket.
All right. What about New Super Mario Bros. Wii? My personal take is bottom bucket, but I don't. It sounds like others might feel a little more strongly about that one.
It wouldn't be in my bottom bucket.
I mean, it wouldn't be in mine either, but that's also because there are enough games on this list that I either haven't played or haven't played very much of.
Okay.
So that's a little strange.
Okay, so we'll not chuck that in the bottom bucket for now. All right, so we got two games in the bottom bucket. All right, Ryan, what else do you want to try and throw in the bottom bucket? Where are you going with this?
All right, so here's my bottom bucket, excluding the few that I haven't played, including ones we talked about, the Super Mario 3D Land, Super Mario 3D World, and Galaxy 2. My bottom bucket, and again, this is fairly relative, would be, starting from the top, Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Land 6 golden coins, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, and at the bottom, Super Mario Galaxy.
Jeez.
I can tell you right now, your last pick there is not going in the bottom bucket.
Yeah,
It's definitely not.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no way.
nah, there's only 2 games on this whole list where I'm going to be a stickler and say those 2 games should be in the top bucket, and one of those 2 games is Mario Galaxy. So, no.
I like you, Paul.
Yeah.
You good guy.
I stashed up on Starman before this. I'm invincible.
Well,
I appreciate your zeal, Ryan, but you're crazy.
Okay, well, let's
gonna-
exclude the obvious bottom pick, since that one's easy, and let's talk about the other 3 I mentioned.
I think Land 2 is a good bottom bucket game.
I like Land 2. I mean, it has the overworld. You know, you run around. You got the little propeller hat. You know, it's like a raccoon tail, but you can't fly, so it's strictly worse than a raccoon tail. I don't know. I mean,
We're gonna need more buckets.
I mean, to me, like, Land 2 was not a bad game.
Land 2's again, all these games are good.
It just ended up being one of the least memorable Marios for me.
it is short. I mean, I did recently sit down and replay it on the 3DS Virtual Console. Like, I've actually played through it in the last 3 months. And I mean, you could beat that whole game in one sitting. I mean, granted, it's a Game Boy game that really feels like it's a Game Boy game built for 7-year-olds. Like,
and to be fair, the first Land and some of the NES ones you could also beat in one sitting.
So how about the Lost Levels then? Is that a bottom bucket game for anybody else? And I mean, again, I actually liked Super Mario Bros. 2 and Super Mario Land 2. It's just in the relative scheme of Mario's, accounting for the fact I haven't played some of the newer ones, those kind of ended up shuffling to the bottom of my list.
So I'm probably not going to be super active in this discussion, but this might help guide it a little bit. If you guys, because I've played Land and Land 2 a long time ago, but couldn't tell you much specific about it.
Dude, in Super Mario Land, you fly an airplane.
and I haven't played the Lost Levels at all. So, can somebody just tell me, what is the Lost Levels in relation to Super Mario Bros.?
So, yeah, the Lost Levels, that was the Japanese new Super Mario Bros. 2. The Lost Levels is basically a level pack for the first Super Mario Bros. It's all the same art assets. They just went and made their own, Super Mario Kaizo levels. They just went and, took those assets and just made really hard platforming levels, released it in Japan, and then said, this is way too hard for Americans because Americans are dumb. So
and they're right.
We're going to reskin Doki Doki Panic for Mario Bros. 2, but the Lost Levels is just a super hardcore level pack addition to Mario Bros. 1. That's basically what it is. It's in Mario All Stars. I'm 99% sure you've played at least some of the Lost Levels at some point.
I probably have. I just couldn't tell you anything about it.
It is straight up more Super Mario Bros. 1. It's just more levels and they're a lot harder.
That's what I was wondering. Is it the exact same mechanics and gameplay?
Yes.
And everything?
Yeah, it is the exact same
stuff. They might have tweaked Luigi a little bit. I can't remember.
Yeah, there might be some tweaks, and there might be some more items. Like, I think that's the game that might have added the poison mushroom, because, of course, they needed to be more punishing in that game.
Right.
But,
That's
like,
true.
yeah, I think for the most part, it's just more of the original.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of the context of it being at the bottom of my list. Like, I do remember it being fun and challenging, but, like, at the same time, it came to America really late. I think I played, like, one of the All-Star remake versions of it, and,
Yeah,
like,
I could be wrong, but I think when it came out as part of Mario All-Stars, I think that was the first time it got released in the U.S.
Yes.
yeah, and then there was a DS version of All-Stars that included it as well, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I have, like, I don't dislike that game, but I also don't really have any, like, positive memories or feelings about it, so, like,
Yeah,
I would be fine with it in the bottom bucket.
Yeah, I think I would put it in the bottom bucket before I would put 6 golden coins. But I definitely think Lost Levels should probably.
It's below 6. It is below 6 golden coins on my list, like directly below it. So.
Lost Levels in the bottom bucket.
Sounds good.
So, I guess the other, candidates I named that were not as heavily disputed, like, where do we feel like those sit in relation to, like, some of these games like Mario 3D Land, Mario 3D World?
3D Land is definitely not a bottom bucket game. 3D
Yeah.
World is an interesting one, because, like, that game actually got a lot better reception than 3D Land, and, like, it's a totally fine game, but I was, like, personally really disappointed in 3D World.
I think I feel the same way, that it was disappointing, but I still probably wouldn't put it in the bottom bucket.
So, relative to games like Super Mario Bros. 2 and Super Mario Land 2, like, would you put, like, if there was like a strict decision where you had to choose one or the other, like, which of those games would go on top or bottom?
Wait, I'm sorry, which two?
So, Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Land 2, Super Mario 3D Land, and Super Mario 3D World.
It's a weird concoction. I mean, my least favorite of those is probably Land 2, and that's just because I don't really have a lot of I remember playing it, but I don't remember anything, like, super standing out.
Is Land 2 the one where you fight Wario at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the villain. Because Land 3 was Wario Land 1.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I don't think the U.S. Mario Bros. 2 is a bottom bucket game. I'll put that one out there. I don't think 3D Land is a bottom bucket game either.
I would definitely argue against 3D Land being in the bottom.
3D Land is not a bottom bucket game.
our bottom bucket's looking a little slim right now.
Well, I would still put Mario Sunshine in the bottom bucket before the other games that we're talking about right now. Like,
Yeah.
Mario Sunshine might actually be a bottom bucket game, because, like, it's like we keep going to these other ones like Land 2 or Mario Bros. 2 or whatever, and, like, I think we have, like, more staunch defenders of those. Like, I feel like the best we have about Sunshine is, like, it was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so
sounds like
Sunshine,
No, go ahead.
Sunshine for me, I'm sorry. Sunshine for me, like, so I have my bottom bucket, which I read out. Then above that is Super Mario Bros. Wii and Super Mario Sunshine, like, kind of directly above my bottom bucket. So I'm not going to fight, and draw a line to keep it out of the bottom bucket. I just think that in the grand scheme of Mario, it wasn't. Like I said, I was disappointed with it, like, coming after Mario 64, which would be one of my top picks, but it still was kind of a fun, likable game.
That's pretty much where I sit on Sunshine as well. Like, it wasn't as good or stand out as 64, but, like, the way it played was really good. The way it controlled, and, like, a lot of the platforming challenges were pretty solid. It didn't have, like, the variety, or like, the level design wasn't quite there. Like, the best levels in Sunshine were the ones where they took away your jetpack, and it was just like, all right, here's just a really strict, like, platforming
Old school
challenge.
platformer, yep.
Yeah, like that's where that game was its best, because it was just showcasing how good the 3D Mario movement is.
Yeah.
But like all of the jetpack stuff and how like all of the levels were like the same island theme, like a lot of that kind of just ended up becoming fairly unmemorable for me.
Yeah,
Even though it wasn't like it was still a well-playing game.
Yeah, I think I generally enjoyed that game, but I do think that it just has some overarching problems that sort of keep it from being certainly not at the top, and I could see sliding it down towards the bottom of this list.
Okay, so I mean, maybe I'll fight for it to be at the top of the bottom bucket, but we can.
I mean,
that one's the bottom bucket game.
As we go through it, I mean, we might talk about it more and decide that it slides further and further up. So
yeah, we can shuffle games out of buckets later if we decide. Oh wait, we were wrong, but this is giving us a starting point.
Yeah.
Well, and so, given that, I feel like Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. I think I'm probably the only person that has fond memories from that game. So if we want to go ahead and drop that one in the bottom bucket, maybe we can reshuffle it later. Maybe it'll shuffle out. But I would also say if we're putting Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins in the bottom bucket, that the first Super Mario Land is also up for discussion there too, because in a lot of ways, 6 golden coins was better than the first one, or at least more modern. I think it's almost the difference between Mario Bros. and Mario Bros. 3, at least in my mind, with those two games. Mario Land was short. It was a little more challenging, but overall, I don't think it was really, super complex. So if we're gonna put Mario Land 2 in the bottom, I think the first Mario Land's probably fair game to put in the bottom bucket too.
Yeah.
That is tricky.
What do people think?
So for me,
if it's Land versus Land 2, where do people land on that?
Where do
Land.
people land on the land battle?
I like what you did there.
Oh!
For me, Land. I have fond memories of Land, and it kind of sits in the middle of my list of games. Like I mean, memorable. I don't know if is the right word for it, but
You were 6 years old.
just for what it was. Hey, man, I played it like last year. I played it again last year, rather. So I'm not a huge fan of putting that one at the bottom, but
I kind of agree with Paul that Land 2 is a better game than Land, but I also have fonder memories of Land 1. Like I remember sitting down and like really just like that was one of those games I remember like as a kid, like because it was fairly tough as a kid, of being like, oh, this is like this tough game I want to beat, like I want to get through this thing, and I remember fairly good sessions of like really going at that game and really enjoying it. Land 2 I remember playing and just kind of bouncing off for whatever reason. Maybe it was like that came out at a point where I just wasn't doing a lot on Game Boy, or who knows, but I think like mechanically and being more modern, like Land 2 is probably the better game. Land 1 is absolutely the one I played more. Land 1 is also just really like bizarre. Like I could be wrong on this. I feel like it started like not even as a Mario game, but I could be wrong on that. But like it's got some really weird like goofy enemies and like imagery and stuff, and like you get vehicles, like you get in submarines and airplanes, and like that game's really weird.
Miyamoto had absolutely like almost just like 0% input into that game. I think that's where it kind of feels weird, because Miyamoto really didn't have anything to do with it. The game only had 12 levels, and of those 12 levels, like I think only 10 of them were like actual platforming levels. The other 2 had like the submarine and then like the spaceship, so like as a Mario game, it's not a bad game, but it's 12 levels compared to, the original Super Mario Bros. Had, 32? So it's not very long, and it doesn't have a whole ton of actual Mario in it. So that's why I say, like, it should probably be somewhere around wherever we put Mario Land 2, whether that's in the top of the bottom bucket, somewhere in the bottom of the middle bucket. I don't think those two games are very far apart.
So this.
Land 1 does have Moai statues. I'm just.
I was gonna say,
It does have
yeah,
Moai
I have an
statues.
important question, and this could be a deciding factor. Does Super Mario Land 2 have can music in it?
The soundtrack is a good point in Mario Land 1's favor. That thing's pretty good.
Or whatever that theme that they use.
I remember liking Land 1 more than Land 2, but I also don't. I don't know. Like, I don't think there's a huge gap there either. Like, I'm kind of on the same page there as Paul. So I don't. I feel like these are going to be around the middle bottom bucket split regardless.
Right.
Like they'll either be near the bottom of the middle bucket or the top of the bottom bucket. But Land 1's just such a goofy thing.
So do we want to make that a fifth bottom bucket entry and move on, or is there anything else we want to discuss?
I say, we can just put Land 2 both in the bottom bucket for now, and then that'll give us 6 in the bottom bucket. Then we can go up to talking about the top bucket and just see where that stuff sort of falls out.
Yeah. All right, Nate, how do you feel about 3D World? Like, where does that game place for you?
So from the games that I've played a lot of or remember a lot about, it's on the low-ish end, but
because we might be able to put, like, if you don't feel strongly about 3D World, I'd be okay putting that in the bottom bucket, to be honest.
I definitely don't feel strongly about it, but bottom bucket seems a little harsh.
I mean, I say that knowing full well that, like, 3D World is considered one of the best Mario games, and
yeah,
like,
well, and we both, I think, disagree that it's one of the best, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would say it's one of the worst either. I mean, it's hard because I don't have as much of an opinion on the land games. Like, I remember playing those and enjoying them fine, but I don't have any specifics that stand out to me. So it's hard for me to judge it versus those. Are me and you the only ones who played 3D World? Or
I'm
Ryan,
pretty sure, because that was a Wii U game. So unless Ryan has played it recently and I don't know about it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Because, I mean, 3D World is one of those, like, it's a very good Mario game, but, like, I guess, like, I have my disappointments with it, and I have a few, like, nagging issues about it that I just don't like.
Yeah.
And in the context of, like, I think there might be more affinity for more of these other games.
Yeah, I guess if I had to sum up my feelings on 3D World based on the discussion we've already had, it's like I feel about it in a lot of ways the same way I feel about Sunshine, which is that I generally enjoyed it, but it had, like, some big problems that just
Right.
make it stand out as not as good as a lot of these. But I could see it going on either the top or the bottom.
You bringing up Sunshine actually makes me feel like 3D World probably is a bottom bucket game, because
maybe it is.
I think it's kind of in a similar boat for me, but I actually probably enjoy Sunshine more.
Okay.
Than I enjoy 3D World. Despite, like, everyone raving about, like, that game was huge, like, incredibly well received.
I mean, that game has a lot of good stuff. Like, it looks amazing. It has really good music. I think it still plays well in the same way that most.
It's a 3D Mario game with 8-way movement.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I think that game plays kind of poorly, actually, in compared to 3D Mario games.
Okay, I can go on this journey.
Like, I actually think Sunshine plays better than 3D World in terms of, like, just pure control.
It's been a while, but I could probably see that.
Some of the 3D World level design may be better, but I think the actual, like, control of moving Mario around is better in Sunshine.
Right. Okay. Even with, like, having to, like, fiddly aim the fled pack around to get all the little pieces of gunk.
Probably, yeah.
That always felt bad to me in Sunshine.
Yeah, it didn't feel great. I'll agree with you on that.
Well,
but
Sunshine is also in the bottom bucket right now,
at
as
least,
of now.
Yeah, at least you could, like, at least you had full 360-degree like analog control over Mario and aiming that jet. Like, I remember there being some platforming challenges in 3D World that it's like I just couldn't be as precise as I wanted to be because it was strict 8-way movement.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the fact that we're sitting here debating Sunshine versus 3D World makes it a pretty strong candidate for the bottom bucket, so we can do that.
3D World in the bottom bucket.
Did you want to drop the land games in there as well? That's kind of or at least land 2.
I feel like those are either at the top near the top of the bottom bucket or bottom of the middle bucket again. So
yeah, I mean, we might already have our bottom bucket here.
Go ahead and maybe drop them in there, and we'll shift them out if we need to.
I also feel like New Super Mario Bros. Wii is around this spot as well.
All right, so let's talk about what we already have in the bottom bucket and make sure we feel good about these 5 games over everything else being in the bottom.
I mean, I would put New Super Mario Bros. Wii on the bottom bucket before some of these other games, but I get the sense that Nate and Ryan like that game enough to not put it in the bottom bucket.
Yeah, I mean, it might be the bottom of the middle bucket for me, but it wouldn't be in the bottom bucket for me.
Yeah,
because I like almost, well, the non-new games in the bottom bucket I like more than Wii, the New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Wii way better than the Lost Levels. I didn't play U. I like Sunshine more than Wii, but not, a little bit.
Yeah, we need more buckets.
Well, and maybe the bottom bucket will actually be the hardest because, again, like, I don't feel like there are
no easy buckets, Ryan.
I don't know that any Mario game I remember just absolutely hating. Like, there are plenty that were like disappointing, uninspired, maybe a little less, snappy or, fresh than I would have liked, but nothing that I just absolutely was like, this has to be in the bottom bucket. All of these are just kind of like, well, in my relative scheme of things, I would push these games down past a few others which I've played.
Yeah, and again, this is all relative because I don't think any of these 17 games are bad.
Yeah.
Except for Mario Sunshine.
Well, yeah, and Galaxy. I guess we could make that up as well.
You're just wrong on that one, Ryan.
Maybe Galaxy actually is that candidate for me. Maybe it's a game I just...
Okay, do we want to put... I feel like the 2 land games and New Super Mario Bros. Wii are the 3 borderline ones here.
I think those are the next 3 up for chopping.
I mean, we could go ahead and drop them either in the middle or bottom buckets because we know it sounds like we're almost certain they're not going to be in the top.
Yeah, why don't we drop them in the middle and continue on from there?
Let's go ahead since we've talked about them. Just set them down somewhere and then maybe move to the top, which hopefully is not.
Is there a way we can denote from the master list which ones we've already sort of placed?
We could do a strike through. Do we want to do that?
That would help me. I don't know.
For now, or put a little asterisk before it or something.
All right, hold on a second. I got a better idea here. What color do we want the bottom bucket to be?
Red.
There you go.
I like it.
Red.
All right.
Red it is.
Danger, danger, danger.
We got that. We got that. We got this one.
Just so I can look at the list more easily and see what we
and
still considering.
this one.
Oh, Jesus.
That
hurts. That hurts. Hold on.
Dandelion yellow there.
I don't like that color. I'm gonna
there. How's
all
that?
right. That's all right.
I was looking for another yellow that wasn't going to blind us. It just took a second.
And we'll use blue for top or something like blue or green.
Blue or
Green
green,
is probably.
whatever is more readable.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so that makes it a little easier for me. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Okay.
I probably should have devised a better system before we started.
All right, so the king of the hill, the top bucket. Which Marios make it to our top
64.
top list.
Yeah, there are some really easy additions here. Like Mario 64 is obviously going to be in the top bucket.
Undisputed.
Mario Super Mario Bros. 3 is going to be in the top bucket.
Yes.
Super Mario World is going to be in the top bucket.
Undisputed. Mario 3, slightly less undisputed, but
shut up.
probably undisputed.
Super Mario Galaxy is going to be in the top bucket.
Disputed. Objection.
Super Mario Galaxy is going to be in the top bucket.
We need Phoenix Wright here.
Listen, as
Sprite can suck it.
as player 2, shooting stars at bullet bills is one of my fondest memories of Super Mario Galaxy. So yeah.
Right.
Look, if those 4 games are not in the top bucket, we are not scientists. We are not qualified to rank these Mario games.
Well, 3 of these games.
4 of these games are amazing.
There is a 4th one that may be in question here. I question your scientific method.
I'm a scientist. I'm a man of science. The science does not lie.
So aside from the game, which I don't know, this is like inverse. You guys like switch to negative or something to get Galaxy in the top bucket.
My calculations are infallible.
All right, so
Infallible?
Yes, exactly. See, you can't argue with it, Ryan. It's just there. But before Ryan starts being crazy about Mario Galaxy,
we're gonna have to have the Galaxy conversation at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to save that.
Is there any the other game I would nominate for top bucket is the original?
I would not put that in the top bucket. I mean, yeah, there's history, there's all these things that we can talk about, but the development of Mario as gameplay has progressed from the first game through the series history has put that game further and further back from a gameplay perspective. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but I would not put it as one of the top 5, and I don't think that the history argument is strong enough for it to beat out, some of the other stuff that we've already got in the top bucket. Like, there's just better games than the original, and I don't think I would put it necessarily automatically in the top.
I 100% agree that going back to the original Mario Bros, because I've done this in the past year, is a little tough. Like, the games have just played better over time. At the same time, like, considering when that game came out in 1985 and like what it did, like, it is incredibly impressive how well it plays for the time it came out and how much of those staples like still carry through into modern Mario games. Like, the original New Super Mario Bros. Was meant as a throwback to this game, came out 2 decades later, and like other than like feeling better to control, it still pretty much implements all the same stuff that game did in the 80s. Like, I think the original Super Mario Bros. Is a really impressive game.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say, so it's in my top 4 as well. Aside from just being memorable, if you think about like Super Mario Maker, a lot of people are just like remaking like basically old Mario levels and like maybe with a few new mechanics and art assets and like.
There is a really special caveat about Mario Maker is that they have updated the feel of all of the games in Mario Maker to.
Right.
Like the physics and the movement and the control, like they have updated it. Like if you go and actually play the original Super Mario Bros, it doesn't feel like Super Mario Bros feels in Mario Maker.
Right, there's probably a little less sliding around and such. But
yeah, they have tweaked it to feel better in Mario Maker, but the rest of your points are still valid.
Yeah, but yeah, basically people are making, using like only those bare bone mechanics, and in some cases only those bare bone like. Interactive objects, and like it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I mean, like if I'm gonna get in the mood to go play some Marios, like I'm gonna reach for 5 different Mario games before I'm gonna reach back to the original. So like,
if I'm playing a Mario game in 2016, I'm not playing the original outside of like academic interest.
Right, and so for the ranking of Marios, which we're doing in 2016, for all future listeners,
Well, if we do that, Galaxy's number one. Why are we even talking about it?
And you know
or
what?
at the bottom.
Honestly, I think that some of the games do hold up a little bit better. Like if you look at something like Mario Bros. 3, like that as a platformer is, quote unquote modern enough
Yeah,
to where
that game does hold up a lot better. Yeah.
it just holds up, and Mario World holds up extremely well. But the original Mario Bros., despite everything that we just said, which I completely agree with, like that game was brilliant when it came out. It still is a great sort of game to look at for how to level design. Like there's still a lot of things that developers can learn from that game, but that's not going to be one of the first 5 games that I reach for if I want to go hit blocks with a plumber. So that's why I say that the other games have just outpaced it so much now that we are in 2016 that, yeah, sure, the original Mario Bros. was brilliant, but I would still say that in every conceivable way, Mario Bros. 3 is a better game.
Our top bucket has, 3 games in it right now?
Four games, Ryan. 4.
So we're basically talking about slot number 4 right now.
4 games already in the top bucket.
I don't know what this
Ignoring
discussion
Ryan,
is.
weird Galaxy prejudice for the time being still.
We're basically talking about slot, whether you want to cut it as 4 or 5. Like,
I am on your side here, Justin, but his argument or his opposition to Galaxy seems so strong that I don't know that we can place it in the top bucket before we have that full conversation.
And we shall. I guess, do we want to finish this Mario Bros. Original thing first?
I'm just saying maybe we should just pop Galaxy back out for a second until we beat Ryan into a pulp.
Wow.
Right.
Like I said, extra lives will be shed.
Yeah, I'm going to need to take a bathroom break before that one is kind of why I'm trying to
Okay.
to suss out the Mario Bros. I absolutely agree with Paul that, like, if I'm playing a game today, I'm not playing the original Mario Bros. But I also think it's, like, at least for me, like, I think it's worth considering, like, the impact and legacy that's had. Like, if we take, the grand sum of a game's impact or how fun it has been to play in the past, like if we take the integral of Mario quality,
like a
the
true
differential
science.
equation.
exactly, yeah.
Like
If we were to like map out, line charts of functions of relative like Mario quality of these Mario games and did the integral of them, like the original Mario Bros. Would be at number 1.
Well, but see, that's just it. At some point, it doesn't matter. You don't give Hulk Hogan the title belt anymore. It doesn't matter what the past accomplishments are. And I think we've moved far enough away from it. That's all I'm saying.
We're not giving him the title belt. We're just saying he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and that's basically, when you're debating anything, like if you're debating sports stars or greatest whatever, like obviously, like athletes are stronger now than ever. Like they would beat older athletes, but like an athlete from the 70s, like is still worth considering one of the best athletes of all time, even though they wouldn't compete with today's athletes. So like I think it's still worth, even if it's aged, I still think it's worth considering older games to be in the top bucket.
So what other games would we consider for the top bucket? That was my other question is, right now we're sitting at what?
4 games in the top bucket right now.
If we include Mario 4 games, we include the original.
All right. Excluding
so 5 games.
Mario Bros. And Galaxy, Super Mario Bros. And Galaxy, excluding those, we put Mario 64, Mario Bros. 3, and Mario World in the top bucket. I'm saying that for right now.
Yes.
Okay.
And
fine.
Of the ones remaining, if we're waiting to fully place Mario Bros. And Galaxy, I think for me the ones that are clearly middle bucket would be Mario Bros. 2 and New Super Mario Bros.
I kind of feel like everything else is middle bucket. Like I feel like these 5 games.
Yeah, that's kind of the question. Is like, what else would we put in the top bucket if we're going to push out, the original? I don't know that anything else really qualifies.
Yeah.
Even
like I feel like the original I would put well above anything else on this list. I might. All right, here's another top bucket contender: Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Oh my goodness.
I think Super Mario Galaxy 2 is a top bucket game. We can put that on instead of the original. I like that.
Oh my! This negotiations are breaking down. Let's just go ahead and break out the nuclear missiles.
I think we have to have the Galaxy conversation because
All
we're
right,
alienated until then.
All right, I will be right back then.
All right.
Well, and while we're waiting on Fowler to get back, I still kind of am sitting here staring at New Super Mario Bros. And I keep coming back to that was the first 2D Mario since like Mario World, right?
Wait, which one are you talking about? New Super Mario Bros?
Yeah, that was the first 2D side-scrolling Mario since Mario World, right?
Maybe so. Yeah, they did some like remakes.
No, I mean we're talking about just for for this list. So
yeah, I mean, these are in chronological order, so technically Land 2 was after World, but
oh wow, okay. I didn't realize that, but you're right. It does say this list is chronological, so that would make sense. That's what that means. I just feel like that's a game that if we were 8 years old when we played New Super Mario Bros., it might end up being at the very top of our list right now because that game was really good. It had a lot of really good interactions. It had a lot of really good stuff about it. I think the reason why it hadn't made the impact that we're kind of giving it credit for is because maybe we were just too old whenever we played it for it to really sort of settle in and for us to realize how good that game was, especially following up Mario World.
Well, I mean, I didn't play the New Super Mario Bros. Like, I didn't have a DS for a while, so I played, I do remember enjoying New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which wasn't super long ago that I played, maybe 3 or so years. I do remember enjoying that one quite a bit. I don't, not so much that I would put it, like, at the top of my list, but, it was definitely, I did not feel like it belonged at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point, and for what it's worth, I do think that the new, even though we, sort of immediately jumped on all over the new Super Mario Bros. Games, I do think those games, the 2D ones, control super well.
For good reason.
Like, I really enjoy the technical controls of the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Like, in Mario Maker, those were the games that I enjoyed, or that was the style that I enjoyed making and playing more than the other styles.
Yeah.
Because of things like wall jumps and butt stomps and all that.
I just feel like
you do wall jumps in Super Mario Galaxy.
Also 64.
And Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, and 64. Yeah. Point being, it's not a new thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like the original New Super Mario Bros. Is one of those games that like it's like totally good. Like it looks good. Actually, I don't really like the way this. All right, it's got the stupid wah-wahs. I don't think that game sounds good. It does look good though, and like the levels are totally fine. It's just one of those things that like they were really piggybacking on like the NES games and saying like, hey, here's a new take on those NES games.
right.
But it never really stood out as doing anything more ambitious than those games did. Like it did it in like. It looked better, it controlled better, like, it did stuff better just by virtue of being modern, but it never felt like an ambitious thing to me. It felt like them just saying, hey, let's just give this a nice facelift and put it out again.
Yeah, and I just think that whenever we get done, applying the science, and we get done ranking all of this, the original New Super Mario Bros. Is more than likely going to get, slotted somewhere in the middle of this list. And I don't think I have a good argument for why it should be any higher. I just think that that's a game that when it came out, I think that game was just as impactful on 8-year-olds as Mario Bros. 3 was on us whenever it came out. It's just we didn't see it.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, I think that game's actually the best-selling Mario game.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure it did impact a lot of people.
So do we want to settle our top bucket on 64, 3, and World?
and Galaxy.
As an undisputed top 3.
Those are probably going to end up being our top 3, but so I mean, whatever. But
that could become our top bucket.
But whenever we're talking about number 4, we're going to have to hash this out.
I don't know. I mean, Paul wasn't feeling the original, but I think that one's a good contender for number 4.
No.
Okay, so Ryan.
Yes.
First thing, just because I'm curious, Galaxy or Galaxy 2? Wait, have you played both of them?
Only the first one.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.
Played it to completion, and then
All right,
did not
so
want to
tell
play
me
the second one.
What your beef is with this magical game.
Well, for one thing, I don't really remember that much about it.
Ryan doesn't have a soul. That's the problem.
All right.
Ouch. Cut me deep. You're like, well, the science has been applied.
Yeah, I have charts right here that just clearly say Ryan has no soul.
You are a terrible person.
Soulless vessels are not allowed to vote. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, really, I don't remember anything like distinctive. And like I said, I played that game to completion. Like, to me, it felt kind of like a grind, like doing the collectibles. More than the other 3D Marios like Sunshine and 64. The only really kind of newish mechanic I remember it adding was kind of like the planetary gravitation stuff. But that there was like 1 or 2 times where I felt like, oh, I kind of see what they're going for here. But then like most of the other times, it's like, why is my camera like zooming around like in random directions? Like, what is going on here? I don't know. The theme didn't really click that much with me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was just curious what your problem was with it. It seems like you just didn't think it did anything particularly memorable, and maybe had some problems with camera. And so you said you didn't like collecting all the stars and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, like, it's a game like I played when I was extremely busy, and there were some other games I tired of quickly during that time period. But at the same time, like, I am extremely skeptical of it being like a top pick. Like, I don't remember anything about that game that really puts it in like a top pick category. I mean, it's the one I enjoyed probably the least of any of the other games I played on this list. But
okay.
I mean, it sounds to me like mostly that it just something about it never it doesn't sound to me like there's anything specifically off-putting about it. It sounds to me like when you're playing it just never, for whatever reason, whether it was a time and place thing or like just where you were at with Mario at the time, like it sounds like it just kind of didn't grab you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll grant that there's some of that to it, but I'm also really curious, like, it's being regaled as kind of like, that it did something new and exciting and innovative in the Mario space, but really, I don't see what that is.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think the reaction to the game was maybe a little bit more than my reaction to it, but I do really enjoy that game.
Whenever you want, I can unload my Mario Galaxy discussion.
Maybe after we firmly decided that it can be like somewhere in the middle.
I got reasons why I think it is special.
All right, so Ryan said why he didn't really like it. So I think Justin, you're the most staunch defender of Galaxy. So let's hear it.
Super Mario Galaxy is, first of all, hands down the best playing Super Mario game, 2D or 3D, just across. I mean, Galaxy 2 plays the exact same. But across the board, the way the movement feels, the way the jumping feels, Mario's moves, everything about that game is buttery smooth, and it is absolutely top tier controlling Mario. Like, that game controls beautifully. On top of that, it has every single thing that's good about any of the other 3D games, be it 64, Sunshine, Galaxy 2, whatever. Everything that makes those games great is also here. You think about the different worlds in 64, and you go back to them for like 6 to 8 stars worth. You have that here as well. You also have the galaxy structure also gives them so much more freedom to be more creative. You have individual galaxies that are just one, like they're like individual built levels just for one single idea, and they'll build an entire galaxy for that. So like, where in Mario 64, I don't know, there were probably like 10, 15 worlds in that game, and you get like 6 stars per world. So like, there are worlds in Galaxy that do that, and you get to revisit them and see them from different angles as you go for different stars. But then they also have these standalone galaxies that you'll get 1 or 2 stars from that'll have just completely unique mechanics. And they're able to really cram a lot more variety in that, so you're not just every world, you're not going back to them. You know, you're not doing the thing where you drop in the bomb on battlefield and you kind of run over the same ground each time. Like, they cram so much more variety in the galaxies. And like, going in with that, like you were mentioning that you don't feel like it did a whole lot new, but they get way more creative in the Mario Galaxy levels than they do in any other Mario game. I think Mario Galaxy has and along with Galaxy 2, Mario Galaxy 1 has the single most creative level design in the entire franchise. They have, you're doing things like, in addition to, they have plenty of levels that are like on par with Mario 64 style challenges, or Mario Sunshine when they take away your jetpack. But on top of that, they have all of the space physics stuff. They'll have all the planetoids like near each other, and you're bouncing back and forth or getting into orbit around these, and that stuff is super rad. Like, the way that feels with the jumping is just awesome. But then they'll have like spin-off ideas, like, all the Mario games have water levels. They have freaking water in space. So you're like swimming through water, like these water chunks that are floating through space, and you're having to time your swimming with this stuff. And it's just like, they just do so much creative stuff. They have music levels in that game where the platforms switch in time with the music, and you're having to jump through these kind of challenges. Or they have platforms that switch as you jump, or they have, like, there's just so much creative stuff in there. You're like they unloaded like all of their creative ideas into this thing. Like, it has by far the most variety of any single Mario game, and the soundtrack is freaking baller. Like, that soundtrack is amazing. Like, I could be wrong, but I think it's the first Mario soundtrack that was orchestrated, and it sounds gorgeous. Like, they took all of the old Mario themes, reorchestrated them in fantastic ways, and I think its original themes are some of the best in the entire series. And it's also, I think that even though there are Wii U Mario games, I also think Mario Galaxy is the best looking game. Like, its art style is just fantastic. Like, they get really creative. Like, again, going back to the sheer variety of the galaxies, like, their art style, they're able to cram just so much creative stuff in that game. Like, I think from top to bottom, like, Mario Galaxy is incredibly impressive in every single aspect.
It is the only Mario game, well, the first Mario game that had co-op.
Yes. For what that's worth. But yeah.
I'm just saying, it had co-op.
You wanted my Mario Galaxy spiel, there it is.
Yeah, no, that's what we needed.
I think this is absolutely top tier.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with you and disagree with you on different points. I think the main takeaway for me for Galaxy is what you spent a lot of time on already, is the creativity of that game. That's the thing that makes it stand out.
And like, that's
to me.
Yeah, and like, when we're talking about Mario, like, all of these Mario games are platforming. And like, for them in Mario, like, that's probably the main thing that makes Galaxy so special, is they're able to get so much variety and creativity out of, like, the most staple video game mechanic of all, just like simple platforming. Like, they're able to push that idea as far as probably any video game has ever done with its variety and creativity. Like, it's super impressive.
That actually was a part of Galaxy that felt really flat for me. Is basically like the kind of things that they were trying to do with the gravity and stuff, like one of the more defining mechanics of that game. Like, most of the time I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of bouncing between planets, like, I see what you're going for. Like, most of the time it doesn't feel that smooth to me. Like, you get in some cases you get the camera like kind of zooming around to catch up with Mario.
Speaking of camera, I tried playing some of the other, like, I tried playing Mario 64 recently, and its camera is not that great.
If you're going to levy one criticism against Mario 64, it's got to be the camera.
Yeah, I think as far as the 3D games goes, the Galaxy games have, hands down, the best camera.
Well, this goes back to our previous discussion of, like, what the game did at the time, because to me, like, Galaxy didn't really, I think it reused like some of the hard platforming that Sunshine had, like, it did its own level design akin very much to what Mario 64 did. Like, you can argue that they made things more creative. When I played it, I remember nothing really sticking with me, whereas I can still remember a lot of levels from Mario 64, which I played like 10 years ago.
Exact. So like,
So
Mario 64, you remember because it's the first. Like, there's a lot of nostalgia there. Like, it was the first 3D game you played, and you played it at a certain age. Like, playing Mario Galaxy in college when it sounds like you were busy. Like, of course, it's not going to stick as much.
Well, and I mean, yeah, I guess, so to me, it's the less memorable a Mario game is, like, the less top tier it will be. And I do remember, like, getting really tired of the collectibles in Galaxy. Like, I remember not falling in love with the platforming, like, and I remember, that a lot of the things that they did that were interesting had already been done.
They had never done gravity before. They had never done platform switching stuff before.
Which I didn't enjoy, like the gravity.
I also think I didn't mention this earlier, I think Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 have the best bosses in the series. Like, they're the only games that have had boss fights that I thought were any good. I also think the collectibles in Mario Galaxy are not nearly as grindy and egregious as they are in a lot of the other games. There's really not that much collectible stuff in Galaxy, but
are you sure about that? Because once you aren't there like 100 sprites or whatever they are, and then you actually can like redo and get 100 more or something crazy like that?
I don't think there's any redoing. There are a few stars where you have to get 100 purple coins, but also remember that all of the other 3D games have that. That's why I'm saying, by comparison, I think Mario Galaxy is not as egregious. Like, Mario 64, there's a star in every single world for getting 100 coins. Like, all of the Mario games have that, and I don't think Mario Galaxy is any worse, and I actually think it's not as bad as the other games.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember anything.
I don't remember that many 100 coin stars in Galaxy.
Yeah, I can't remember anything in terms of Galaxy that was like, felt like just excessive collectible, or, I mean, I'm assuming when we say collectibles for those games, we're just talking about stars, right? There's not something I'm forgetting.
Yeah. I just remember, like,
all the 3D ones have 120 stars. So.
Yeah. Well, Galaxy 2 had the green star thing, but that's optional. So.
Yeah, all of them have bonus stuff as well. Yeah, like I assume we're just talking about like the core through line.
So. We have to decide on Galaxy at some point. I don't know if there's a way we can come to a consensus on this. It's top bucket for me, for sure.
Top bucket all the way.
Yeah, I feel like that it would be a little disingenuous to not have it in the top bucket. Like, it took Mario 64 and it evolved it in a way that was really unique with a lot of different mechanics. It also did a lot of things on the periphery with things like the graphics and the sound, and like, the whole thing was just take Mario 64, crank it up by 1, and you're still not going to get Mario Galaxy. So I think if we're going to have Mario 64 up in the top of the bucket, which is where it definitely should be, I think Galaxy also has to be there too. It's a great game that sold a bajillion copies because the Wii sold a bajillion consoles, and I think for a lot of people, like, I think that's a lot of people's number one Mario game of all time. Which, Fowler, sounds like you're sort of getting there, But
it's actually not my number one, but it's really high up. Like in my mind, it's absolutely top 3. So.
Yeah. And I mean, for as much as, we were wasting words about Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, like, I'm never going to sit down and say that, one of the Mario games on one of the handheld consoles is the best Mario game of all time. But I think that there are a good number of people out there who will make the argument that Mario Galaxy is the best Mario of all time, and for that, it should at least be in our top bucket. I mean, it doesn't have to be number one on this list.
No, it
but
doesn't.
It's definitely got to be in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, like it's yeah, I agree entirely. And like it's I already said it's not my favorite Mario game, but I do think that the Galaxy games are the best playing, at least the best playing 3D Mario games. And I think there's a lot of argument there of like, we're talking about how Mario Bros. 3 is basically a better Mario Bros. Like, I think there's a lot, like you can say the same stuff that like Mario Galaxy improved on the 3D Mario games like 64 and Sunshine in much the same ways, and maybe even to a bigger degree. I think it's.
I think we'll have an argument on that at some point, but
right. But I think that argument is like you can make that argument, and I think that by itself already puts it like in the top tier.
No, I'm not arguing against it being top tier at all.
Well, Ryan, it sounds to me like you've been out scienced, as it were.
Ouch! I don't know about out science,
but at least outnumbered.
More outnumbered than
which is all that matters here.
This does have to be somewhat of a consensus list, so
So our top bucket would be if we include Galaxy. Are we including Bros, or is that going into the middle bucket?
I think that's the next thing we have to decide.
I don't have any more energy to fight for that one, so you guys figure it out.
I mean, either top of middle or in the bucket.
I mean, my vote is absolutely like.
I think it's
Galaxy in the top bucket.
reasonable to put it in the top 5.
I feel like Bros is like right, very if not number 5, like pretty close.
I would definitely have it in my top 4 or 5.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to get Ryan here, which is fine.
Which, in a much more gentler way. I mean, I'm not going to fight that it can't be at the top of the middle bucket, but I do think it's a top 4 or 5 myself.
I feel like just I'll say one more thing, and then I'm done. We can put it wherever. But every single list, every single podcast, every single thing I've ever seen when people start to talk about Mario games, I always feel like that they overrate the original game by a mile. And I think that when we get done here with this list, I'm going to look at it and go, man, the science overrated it by a mile. Because I mean, I feel like it is so incredibly far behind in so many different ways. But because it's the original, and because it's Mario, and because it's Nintendo, and it was kicked off this whole wave of stuff, it's got to be up in the top 3. No, it doesn't have to be in the top 3. It's not even that good of a game anymore, But I know I'm going to lose that argument, so you guys, if you want to put it in the top bucket, that's fine. But I really don't think that should be anywhere close to the top. I'd put it solidly in the middle of the entire list.
I mean,
if it ends up at number 4 or number 5, that's not top. So
I get what
it's looking
you're saying.
like that's kind of where we're going with it.
I put Mario Land 2 in front of it.
Ouch.
I mean, I would put some of these games above Super Mario Bros. For me personally, because I don't have a strong relationship with that game. Like, that was not a big part of my gaming life. I understand that it's super important.
I think a lot of those people making the list that Paul talks about are like 5 to 10 years older than us, and for them, like that game was a huge landmark. I think our age is like just out of reach. Like we were starting to get into games around the time of like Mario Bros. 3 or Mario World. Like we're a few years off from the original.
Right, because like when I was 5 years old, I played the original Mario Bros. And then 3 or 4 months after I got my Nintendo, I got Mario Bros. 3. Then I put Mario Bros. 3 in my Nintendo, and it stayed there for the entirety of me owning that console. So, like, I played the original Mario when I was young, and then I saw Mario Bros. 3, and I went, wow, not only is this better in every single conceivable way, but, the game actually has some story to it, some overworld, some this and some that. And so, and I know that Mario Bros. 3 is going to be near the top of this list. I don't think anyone's arguing that Mario Bros. 3 is a better game. It's just like Man, I can see already. We're gonna have Super Mario Bros. At like number 4, number 5, and I'm gonna look at it and go, "You should be number 12. Get down there."
I mean, I'm kind of agreeing with you, Paul. So I don't think it's a sure thing yet. I mean,
yeah, and I mean for me, like again, we discussed some of this earlier, but as I was growing up, yeah, I probably didn't start playing games as much. Well, I mean, I actually was beating Bowser when I was like 3 years old, but I also remember like watching my mom play and my aunts and uncles play, and they were playing a lot more of the original 2 than number 3, and like it was definitely a magical thing back then. Plus, it's held up so well, and it's kind of like the ancestor to a lot of these games in a sense. So I definitely think the original Mario Bros. Even though gameplay-wise, I probably had more fun with some other entries in the series. Like I still think it's well worth remembering as like an upper pick. But anyway, like I said,
you're still giving Hulk Hogan that title belt, and he's 65 years old.
Like I said, he can be in the Hall of Fame. He can live in the Hall of Fame. Okay, so top bucket is Super Mario 64, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, Super Mario Galaxy.
I can spell it for you if you want.
And maybe Super Mario Bros.
Galaxy.
Let's not start a war.
All right. I'll cut my losses.
Interstellar space war.
So I'm guessing.
Do we want to?
Nobody here would put either 3D Land or New Super Mario Bros. Over Super Mario Bros. Right?
I wouldn't. I think Paul would probably put New over the original.
I would.
Because I could probably see having, for me personally, either New Super Mario Bros. Or 3D Land above the original.
New Super Mario Bros. When that game came out, that game did a lot of stuff, and I thought it was really good. I mean, it did kick off the entire New franchise. I mean, I know that we ranked at the bottom, but
that might make it that might be
a detriment.
Yeah,
watch your arguments carefully, Paul.
Look, we just said that none of these Mario games are necessarily bad, all right? And if New Super Mario Bros. Could kick off an entire sort of like lineage there that has stuck around, I think you also have to take the historical stuff into account there too.
Yeah, the thing with the new games that like this isn't necessarily this is not a reflection on them being bad games, but like the thing that always bums me out about those games is like basically you have like you had like the core progression of like Mario Bros, Mario Bros 3, World, 64, Galaxy. Like you had these games that like it felt like Mario kept getting bigger and striving for something more, and then they came out with this deliberate throwback game. And like it really caught nostalgia for people, and ended up like the new Super Mario Bros. Games sell better than any of the other Mario games, like by orders of magnitude.
And they don't change much from one to the next.
So like it feels to me like that sub series almost killed the franchise in a way, because that's that don't take that.
Maybe.
Yeah, don't take that as being a more grandiose statement than I'm trying to make it, but like. It feel like it stopped them trying to push out and do bigger, better things, and it said, oh, if we do like a throwback game, people like that, so we're going to keep making those and not really try and change a whole lot. It's just like, all right, we're giving a facelift to what the original did, and we're going to keep running with that. So like in that way, it kind of bums me out, because it feels like it kind of stifled a lot of the creativity that we had been seeing in a lot of the other games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that overall sentiment, but I think we've already represented that by putting a lot of those new games at the bottom, and I don't know if we should hold that against the first New Super Mario Bros. Yeah,
the first one I liked because it was like a fun throwback nostalgia thing. Like I got no beef with the first one. It was the fact that like it continued. The more it went on, the more it bummed me out.
Right.
I almost feel like our top bucket should just be kind of the undisputed 3, and that everything else we should kind of just throw at the top, because it feels like we're getting into like, okay, well, should Super Mario Bros. The original be in the top bucket? Like, well, I don't know, maybe something else can be above it. Like, maybe we should just put everything else in like. Yeah.
I like how you keep ignoring the fact that all 3 of us say Galaxy is in the top bucket.
Well, fine then. Let's make that the cut line and put everything else in the top middle bucket and call our buckets because
I think
we're
that's-
starting to get into kind of the ranking battle.
Okay.
I think we should dump everything left at this point into the middle.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, you guys want to take 5 or keep going?
I'm okay to keep going. I mean, we got like an hour and a half left before Nate needs to go.
Yep.
So I kind of recuperated from from the Galaxy thing, so I'm good.
All right. Well, I might take a short 1 or 2 minute break and rejoin.
It's all right.
Okay.
So now that Ryan's gone, we should be Galaxy at the very top of the list.
Yeah, I got Mario Galaxy's number 1. Get it up
No,
there.
it's not.
You back?
Let's not
Well, you get my back here, I'll get land 2 as high as I can.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Excellent. Just as long as Land 2 makes it above the original, I'm good to go.
All right, I meant this week. Do it.
Super Mario Bros. Now the worst Mario game.
I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the ones down here into the middle bucket.
I
Just
kind of stopped fiddling with the list because like there were a bunch of fiddling going on at once, so I
Yeah,
stopped.
let's just get all this organized here.
You've been doing stuff, Paul. I'm just gonna let Paul, you be our list manager.
Well then, in that case, where's that Mario Land 2?
I don't
You're-
trust him. All right, so how do we want to proceed from here?
I think we should go back and order the bottom bucket.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Should we move anything from the middle bucket into the bottom bucket?
I think at this point we should actually just start ordering from the bottom up now that we have
Just
buckets.
Remove the bucket brackets and just start ordering.
Yeah, I mean we'll leave the bucket brackets there so we can see them
All right, so
because and this is where we can reshuffle. Like as we're doing this, things may get reshuffled from the buckets as needed. But
Super Mario Bros. Is on there twice.
yeah, we need to get one of those off. Oops. There we go. So, I mean, I think it's actually one of those things that we might all just be in agreement right off the bat.
we're missing one game, Mario Bros. 2.
Mario Bros. 2. I feel like Lost Levels has a real shot to be number 17.
I wouldn't argue with that, but I haven't played it, so I feel kind of weird about it.
I'm kind of indifferent to that. Like I would, like those new Super Mario Bros. Games bum me out more, but I'm not really gonna fight it.
See, the thing is, I tried really hard to play the Lost Levels, like, because I had the Game Boy Color Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, and the Lost Levels was actually on that cart as an unlockable. So when I was 13, 12, somewhere around there, like I actually played a ton of that cart. I unlocked the Lost Levels, and I'm not the best Mario player in the world, but I am also not the worst Mario player in the world.
The Lost Levels is almost certainly the hardest game on this list.
But it was almost impenetrable.
Yeah.
Like I was able to get through.
It was not made for silly American.
It really was. I mean, I am that American that I'm glad that they made Doki Doki Panic with a skin because I actually really enjoyed Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah.
But the Lost Levels to me, as far as Mario games go, that's the one I've definitely had the least enjoyment out of because even with some of the other Marios, like you sit down to play something, like Mario Land, and it's you still get enjoyment out of it, but with Lost Levels, I never like everything was always either too hard or too frustrating. Or like just from like a gameplay perspective, I could sit there and play it for 10 hours and just see the same like 7 levels over and over and over again because I just couldn't get past something,
Yeah.
And so it's probably the bottom of my list actually.
Yeah. We never had an NES. Nate and I never had an NES, but we had a Super Nintendo, and we got All Stars, and like I remember trying to play it as part of All Stars when we would have been I would have been like eight or something. And I remember never getting that into it. Like, I don't know that I ever put, like, a serious effort into it.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember it not grabbing me. Like, Mario Bros. 2 and 3 were the ones I played the most in All-Stars, and, like, I kind of didn't go back to those first two, which feel very similar.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't really have any I don't have any affinity for the Lost Levels. Like, I think it's a totally fine, like, level pack, and, like, I'm sure there are people out there who, like, are like, yeah, like, give me those super hard Mario challenges, but, like, I kind of don't care one way or the other.
I'm sure there are people like that, but they're not on this call.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the fact that you just describe it as a level pack makes it sound really like it.
That probably comes off more pejorative than like it really should be, but I mean, it really is, like, that game really is Nintendo being like, all right, like, we made Super Mario Bros. Like, how can we just take that stuff and just make harder levels?
Right.
Right.
Like that's basically my understanding. Like, from my admittedly somewhat limited exposure to that game, like, that's my understanding of what it is.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of thought and effort and a lot of work went into making that game, and I'm sure it was popular in Japan. But it's just, for me personally, it's got to be below everything else that we have in the bottom bucket. I mean,
Then it's below everything else, period.
So yeah, that's why I say, like,
That's how the science works.
the science just said that Mario Bros. The Lost Levels is the worst Mario game of all time.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it down here. We'll see if Ryan has any disagreement, but I didn't get the impression he was super hot on that game either. I think he was the one who first nominated it for bottom bucket.
Yeah, I think he was.
What are we talking about now? Am I back in time to prevent any further travesties?
Well, the only travesty is that the science has decided that Mario Bros. The Lost Levels is the worst Mario game of all time.
Okay. I am not going to argue.
Yeah, we basically decided that now that we have our buckets, we're just going to start ordering from 17 up, and starting with the bottom bucket, we've put Lost Levels at number 17.
And I'm going to delete these from the buckets.
Science has prevailed. That sounds like a good way to go. Oh, wait. Okay.
Oh, I see what's going on.
Okay, so it looks like Galaxy didn't make it to the bottom. All is gone. Maybe science hasn't completely prevailed, but...
So we got 4 other games left in the bottom bucket.
I think it's a battle between 2 and you, right?
I think so.
I mean,
U2 is not that great.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I have not played New Super Mario Bros. U. I have not played it.
If you have played any of the New Super Mario Bros. Games, you might as well have.
Yeah.
So which one came out first, 2 or U? 2
came out first.
So I would say, for that reason...
2 came out first by about 3 months.
Yeah, they came out basically the same time.
Yeah, they were almost neck and neck.
Okay, so they were probably in development at the same time then.
Probably, yeah.
Jeez. Okay, well, in that case, I mean, I enjoyed New Super Mario Bros. 2. I'd probably enjoy New Super Mario Bros. U as well. But
I bet you would.
But I don't have a dog. It sounds like 15 and 16 are going to be these 2 games in some order, and I certainly don't care which order that they go in.
I think it's hard for us to definitively say the correct order because I think
nobody's played both of them.
So we just kind of have to.
Yeah, I 100% am for those being 15 and 16, and I do not care at all what order they are because they're equally mediocre.
Since he liked 2, then let's put that above you.
There you go.
There you go.
So we've got the bottom 3. So now we're just left with Sunshine and 3D World in the bottom bucket.
I personally, again, I wouldn't put Sunshine in my bottom bucket, so I would make that a vote to kind of bump it up at least to 13. I don't know if either of you guys want to defend 3D World over Sunshine.
I
don't, but Nate liked that game more than me, so.
Yeah, and I probably like those games about the same, all things considered. So if both of you like Sunshine better, I'm happy to have that leap over 3D World.
All right.
I will say I enjoyed playing Sunshine more than I enjoyed 3D World.
I would put it even higher, but I don't think it's going to...
I would put it higher, too.
I think the science may have it
We
All
can
right.
have that discussion
Or-
when we get to this next group.
I mean, I would put New Super Mario Bros. Wii at 14 and bump our 13 and 14 up one.
Well, we can certainly go back through the list to see if there's any like one
Yeah,
or, two,
right.
or two spot adjustments that we want to make. But yeah.
Okay, so bottom bucket determined.
Yeah, so I guess
King
I should probably
P17.
do periodic readings of this if
Yeah.
you actually ever listen. So we split our buckets and we've now ordered the bottom bucket. So starting from number 17, which is the Lost Levels, 16 is New Super Mario Bros. U, 15 is New Super Mario Bros. 2, 14 is Super Mario 3D World, and 13 is Super Mario Sunshine.
And I'll just go ahead and save us some time. 12 is Super Mario Bros.
Wah wah. No, Paul, I am back now. This will
okay,
not
all
fly.
I strongly favor New Super Mario Bros. Wii being number 12.
If you wanted to put Galaxy or Galaxy 2 there, I wouldn't contest that decision.
That's not happening. But New Super
I appreciate your persistence, Ryan, but you're just eventually you're gonna realize that wall ain't breaking.
I feel like I'd put Super Mario Land at number 12 before I'd put New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
I would put Land 2 there, actually, but not Land.
I feel like this is where we were at when determining the bottom bucket. Is the two lands and Wii are I think the next three games in some order.
So what about 3D Land? That's a game I haven't played. Is it more like top middle, or is it like
For
bottom
me,
middle?
it is. For me, it's top middle or potentially.
Okay.
Middle.
It's basically a better Mario 3D World in my mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Like I don't have a huge stake in that being super high, but like it's a totally solid game.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think Nate likes it more than I do, so he might have more stake in that.
Yeah, we won't consider that one then. So basically, what we're thinking: Land 2, Land, or New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Is
Yeah, I
that-
think those are the next three that I would nominate.
My vote would be Wii next, but
Well, and I think I'm. I
and
think I'm
I
okay
honestly
with that
like
one.
Sunshine and 3D World better than Wii as well.
I would do slightly different. I would probably do Land 2 just below Wii, and then Land above those two. But I guess we can shift that around a little bit. It's not a huge distinction. Like
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, there's no ordering here that's going to please everyone, and I kind of like what's 10, what's 11, and what's 12 is kind of whatevs.
so, Paul, you think Land 2 is above New Super Mario Bros. Wii?
So all right.
I do.
So I don't actually have too much of a dog about where New Super Mario Bros. Wii goes. If consensus is 12, that's fine. The only thing I do feel strongly about is Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, should go above Mario Land. Mario Land 2 is better in almost every conceivable way in terms of gameplay. It's got a lot more content. The game itself, it has an overworld, which is one of those things that, sure, Super Mario Bros. 3 did it first, but Mario Land 2 was one of the first actually significant feeling like Mario games for a handheld that wasn't just a repackage of Super Mario Bros. So like, I don't know, like Mario Land to me always felt like one of those also ran kind of games, like play Mario Land in the car driving to grandma's house, but you never play it as long as you have another system around. Whereas Mario Land 2, I think it actually does stand well enough on its own to where I've gone and pulled out my handheld and played it above being able to play some other games that I could reach for. So I still would put Mario Land 2 above the first Mario Land.
I 100% agree that Land 2 is a better game. Land 1 is so goofy, I just can't help but like it.
Is Land 1 the one with the space levels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
I'm still trying to differentiate these.
I like Land's dumbness.
Land 1 is just like kind of fun.
Land 1 is really stupid in a really endearing way. Land 2 is 100% a better game. No argument there. Land 2 is absolutely a better game. Land 1 in some ways is kind of not great, but I kind of love it in the ways it's not great. I honestly don't really care between those two.
I mean, I think if you don't really care, it sounds like Paul is pretty adamant that Land 2 should be above it. I don't know, Ryan, if you have a strong
Oh
disagreement
man, that's
there.
painful. Okay, so
the
I
debate
guess
between
we're.
those for me is like, do I like the game that's a little better or the game that's way dumber in a cool way?
I mean, I thought Land was just like more. If nothing else, it's more memorable and more fun to pick up and play.
And that,
but
I think that's why, in my mind, it sticks out as being more memorable, is because it's so weird. Like they're both like good 2D Mario platformers, but like I think because Land was just so bizarre in the scheme of Mario games, like I think that's why it just stood out more to me.
yeah, and I guess like
It's just so deep.
the only other thing I'll say about Land is like I played Land 2 like a time or two when I was young and it was new on the Game Boy, and I've never touched it again. Like I never had any real interest in touching it again, but I actually ended up getting like Land on my 3DS Virtual Console and playing through it not that long ago, just because like it was kind of goofy and fun and memorable, and it's really short. But all that said, so number 12, I guess, are we putting the Wii?
That's fine. All right.
Yeah, it wouldn't be my pick, but it's there.
So 11 Mario Land.
Where is Galaxy? Like, wait, why is Galaxy 2 not getting?
Galaxy 2 is trending where it needs to go.
Why is Galaxy 2 like not getting?
Mario Land number 11. Mario Land.
This number is getting like above the bottom half, and we still haven't placed Galaxy 2 yet. So I'm getting a little uncomfortable here, guys. The science
Galaxy 2 is number 9. Land is number 11.
Prevailing.
So well, let's just do this for now. So we put Mario Land 2 at number 10, Mario Land at number 11. And then that leaves us with New Super Mario Bros., Mario Galaxy 2, Mario 3D Land, and Super Mario Bros. That we haven't ranked yet.
Ooh.
I'm thinking, and this is already too high, but
Actually, now that I look at this, I think 3D Land is next.
No.
I don't think so. I think that this charade has gone on long enough. I think it's time to stop letting Super Mario Bros. Ride the train. It's already in the top 10. It's already in the single digits.
Out of 20.
So
The contentious middle spot is gonna make or break us.
I actually really don't know which of these four I would pick to put next. Like,
I know that I'd probably pick New Super Mario Bros. I feel like that this is a good spot to put that.
I think that would be my pick as well.
Yeah.
I know that my pick for the number 9 spot would not be Galaxy 2.
You guys think that Galaxy 2 and 3D Land are better than New Super Mario Bros? Basically.
3D Land, maybe not. Galaxy 2, absolutely.
For me, both of those are better than New Super Mario Bros. I mean, New Super Mario Bros. Is very good.
3D Land and New Super Mario Bros. Actually occupy like a weirdly similar space in my mind. It's like they're good, serviceable handheld games that like didn't really do anything to stand out that much, but like they're fun and good to play. Like
I'd agree with that, but I also personally enjoyed 3D Land more. I don't know if it's the 3D movement or if it was
the
the time and place
pseudo
thing.
3D movement with its
Sure.
But
that's actually the grand trick of Mario 3D Land is actually a 2D Mario game that just happens to give you like slightly more wiggle room to move around in.
But now hear me out. Mega Mushroom.
Mega Mushroom is pretty
I hear you, Paul.
So for that, maybe New Super Mario Bros. Rides to number 7. Mario 3D Land is number 8, and Mario Bros. Is number 9. Mario Bros. Does not have the Mega Mushroom. I would like to remind everyone of that.
Does Galaxy 2 have a Mega Mushroom?
Dude, Galaxy 2 actually has like one of the biggest influxes of items. I don't think it has the Mega Mushroom, but it's got some pretty rad stuff.
Well, in that case, I mean, New Super Mario Bros. Is just riding this train all the way to the top then.
We reached an impasse here.
My next one would be 3D Land. I think I do like New a little better than 3D Land, but they're pretty close to me for me. Again, for me, it kind of comes back to like new when it came out. Like it was a fun throwback and like it was a neat idea. 3D Land kind of felt like it just kept going on that trend of like unambitious. Like after in the wave of new Super Mario Bros. Games, even though it's not a new Super Mario Bros. Games, it still kind of continued that trend of like not really doing anything new for Mario games. Like it kind of feels in a similar mold. That's my take on that one.
Yeah, I can understand that argument. I think that game, I think 3D Land succeeds in just having a lot of really fun, short platforming challenges in a way that maybe New Super Mario Bros. Didn't have
I do,
the same level.
Yeah, I do think the level design in 3D Land is better. Like it is more interesting.
I remember having that game when I think I got it when I first got my 3DS, and it's just like I would pick it up and play for like 20 or 30 minutes and be able to do a couple levels in just like short bursts, and they were always super fun. And that's why I really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I think, like, thinking about these, I think 3D Land is the better game, but New Super Mario Bros. By coming a number of years first, maybe I wasn't as burnt out then.
Right.
So, like, I guess that's the debate. Because, I like thinking about the level design in 3D Land. Like, I think it is better and more interesting. Like, I think they do cooler stuff and have better levels in 3D Land. So, I guess that comes down to like supporting the better game or the one that was more like. I
mean, if you guys want to, I'm ready to go with Paul and just put Super Mario Bros. Next.
This is going on long enough.
I don't know that I would go that far.
Yeah.
I mean, I would actually put it at 10, and I'd move Mario Land 2 up a spot, but I know I'm not going to win that, so...
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go there, I would put Galaxy at 17. And, everything else we get to move up.
We want to go there, I'd put Ryan Snyder at 18.
Wait, I get to be a Mario game now?
The worst one.
How does it feel?
I guess... You said there were no bad games. I guess I will be the pinnacle of mediocrity. Mario Universe. Although, put me above Galaxy at least, because then at least I won't hate myself.
All right, so I'm just gonna copy and paste two of these in, and we're gonna put New Super Mario Bros. There, and we're gonna put 3D Land above it.
Sounds like we're pretty close on those. So
I mean, those two might swap whenever we walk back to the list, but
yeah, looking at it like I do, I don't feel like super strongly about it, but I do think 3D Land is the better game of those two.
Yeah, okay. I definitely agree that 3D Land should be above, but that's just me.
So, how much higher is this gonna go?
It looks like we have two more picks for the bottom bucket. Middle bucket.
Oh, we're missing a game. Super Mario Bros. 2 is not here.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, friggin' what? Okay.
That was going to be bottom or middle, right?
It was going to be middle.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I would put that below 8 and 9 that we have now, but...
Can we just talk? We haven't talked about this game at all. Can we just talk about how freaking weird Super Mario Bros. 2 is?
It is super weird. It is
in a pretty great way. Like
I think that's a good description for it as a Mario game, and interestingly memorable.
Yeah, like it's so bizarre, like how they reskinned Doki Doki Panic, and then like so many weird quirks of Doki Doki Panic made its way into like permanent Mario lore that has continued to be in all of these games. Like the fact that Peach floats and pulls up turnips is in like Smash Bros. And like Mario 3D World. Like these mechanics have permeated into Mario canon from like courtesy of Doki Doki Panic because of Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah, it is probably worth mentioning that we even had a discussion about whether or not to include that game on this list. But like you said, it has, aside from the fact that it was a decently fun platformer of its day, like it has sort of become canonical Mario.
Yeah.
And has some of this.
Yeah, like Shy Guys became fairly standard enemies. I think they're more in like the Yoshi games, but like Shy Guys are introduced in Mario Bros. 2. Like Birdo is introduced in Mario Bros. 2. Like a lot of these characters that came from Toki Doki Panic are like in the Mario universe now.
Yeah, and in some ways, like you don't see that in any place more than in a game that's not on the list because it's not a platformer. But Mario RPG has so much stuff that it pulls from Mario 2 that it's like, I mean, it's really kind of hilarious to like stand back and think that, all right, what is a game that we can pull a bunch of stuff in and it actually survive into Mario canon? I don't know that I would have in a million years said, Doki Doki Panic fits really well with the Mario universe.
Yeah.
You know? But it's just kind of one of those things that, oddly enough, they just sort of came in and this all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it works. I think Mario Bros. 2 is a fun game as well. Like I don't know, it doesn't. We're not putting it in the top chunk of this list, but like I think it's a totally fun game.
On a tangent, I am curious, like how the Japanese people see that canonically, because I assume they still have all the characters, like they still see the games introducing Shy Guy and Birdo and stuff, but for them that was Super Mario USA.
That is a good question. I don't know
how the Japanese see Super Mario 2, quote unquote Super Mario 2, as like in terms of canonical Mario.
Like, that kiddie American game. Those pansies can't handle a real challenge as they smoke their cigars and act all high and mighty. The thing about it being so weird, though, it does kind of make it hard to place on this list.
Yeah, it does.
I actually really don't know where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I had it above at least Land 2 in my list, which I guess by extension could include Land 1 on this list.
Yeah. Sitting right now.
Yeah, I'd be fine where you just kind of haphazardly put it right there. I don't know if anyone else feels strongly it should go up or down.
I think that as a pure like Mario game, it's obviously not as like the levels aren't designed as well. Like I think a lot of the stuff that is around the periphery is really good, but as a pure Mario game, I feel like that it's sitting at number 9, which is almost the smack middle of our list. I think that's probably a good spot for it for right now.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I like it.
So unfortunately, this has made Mario Bros. Rise to at least number 6.
Yes.
So
I don't think Mario Bros. Is going to sit at number 6 either.
I knew it. I just knew as soon as we started this, we're going to rank Mario Bros. Way too high.
We have backdoored Mario Bros. All the way up to at least 6.
Well, Galaxy and Galaxy 2 have been, one of them has been backdoored and one of them has been sledgehammered through the front door into entirely wrong spots. Like
I can
the
pick
Mario
up the
universe,
sledgehammer if I need to.
Mario Galaxy is going to, the Mario Galaxy, as it were, is going to implode.
Honestly,
be like, why did you rank this terrible game so highly?
I mean,
I would say Mario Galaxy 2 should be 6, except for the fact that Paul is really adamant on Mario Bros. 1. And I like Mario Galaxy 2 a hell of a lot, and I would be okay actually just go ahead and put Mario Bros. 1 at 6 and Galaxy 2 up to 5. I would have no problems with that.
Oh, please tell me that's not where you really want to go.
I never thought we'd get here, but if Paul's on board with me,
listen to reason, Paul.
No, listen. Like, here's the thing. Like, regardless of the rest of this list, right? Like, take everything else out. If you give me Mario Galaxy 2 and the original Mario Bros., I'm going to say Mario Galaxy 2 is a derivative piece that basically was less important in every way than Mario Galaxy. And while it was a perfectly fine game, I'm never going to recommend someone play Mario Galaxy 2. I'm going to recommend them to play Mario.
Just stop right there, and that statement makes perfect sense to me.
But
I would probably never recommend somebody play Mario Galaxy 2 or Mario Galaxy 1.
But like the thing is then it's like when I look at Mario Galaxy 2 with all of its derivativeness, and then I look at Mario Bros. With the the history and all the other stuff, it's like I have to put the original Mario Bros. Ahead of Galaxy 2. Like, I have to give Hulk Hogan the title belt back because this other guy just is like, he's the same thing that came out like 2 years before.
So, that's short-shrifting Galaxy 2 a little bit. I totally see what you're saying, though. But, like, Galaxy 2 is, like, Galaxy 2 is great because it feels like it's all of the ideas they had for Galaxy 1 that they thought might be like too much for the average game player, and they're like, all right, all these ideas, like, screw it, we're just going to go for it. And like Galaxy 2 has like
So Galaxy 2 is the modern version of the Lost Levels, is what you're saying.
not to that not to that
Number 16.
Move it down.
no, because Mario, like, the Lost Levels was built with the intent of like making hard levels. Galaxy 2 is, hey, we had a lot of creative ideas we still couldn't fit into Galaxy 1, and like maybe they're like kind of the crazier ideas, so we held off on them. The Galaxy 2 is like, no, we're just going to make it crazy. Like, I don't know, the Galaxy 2 actually is harder than Galaxy 1. I don't know. They felt on par to me. But like it feels like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, with all the inventive ideas Galaxy 1 had, it still feels like they had so many more ideas they couldn't fit into that game. And like Galaxy 2 continues, the main point is that it continues to have really fresh ideas, despite being a lot of the same mechanics as Galaxy 1. Like, it continues to introduce new ideas, and it has like the biggest influx of like new suits and powers that they make use of, like, probably since like Mario Bros. 3 or something. Like, they really go out and like put everything into that game to like make it something that stands up and works. That said, whoa. All right, are you going to make me take
This whole
editing?
process is breaking down right now.
I can take away editing controls from you. Okay, so who... what if this was Paul's doing and what if this was Ryan's doing?
No. So I mean, like, those two are going to go 5 and 6 in some way. I was
Okay.
going ahead and putting them there
Before Ryan started mucking stuff up.
So I mean.
I actually don't
all these words and then trying to move this thing into the spot where it belongs.
I feel like that I think number 5 is too high for the original Mario Bros. That's the thing that I just keep coming back to, regardless of all of the arguments. I feel like 5 is just too high for the original one. I mean, I think 6 is too high too, but this is where the science has led us. Okay, the science has led us to 5 or 6.
Even independent of my feelings of Galaxy, I do think Mario Bros. Is a top 4, top 5 game. You know, in my own personal list, it was, I believe, number 4. So I don't, and you know, as we discussed earlier, like, I think it's held up pretty well, like, for a game that was released literally 30 years ago. And you know, I think it's definitely influential. Like, I don't think that's disputable in any way.
All right, so we have one vote for having Mario Bros. At number 5, 1 vote at number 6. Fowler, what do you think? What order do you want these two games in?
I like Galaxy 2 better.
Okay.
It's not a like huge preference. Like, I like and respect the original a lot, but for me, I absolutely enjoy Galaxy 2 more.
Okay, so, and Nate?
I would put Galaxy 2 above Mario Bros. I would also put 3D Land above both of those.
All right. Well, so it sounds like the science between 5 and 6 is going to have Galaxy 2 at 5 and Mario Bros. At 6. Between those two.
This is ridiculous.
This is the best.
It's ridiculous that Mario Bros. Made it up to 6, but this is where we are now.
I like how
I can't believe that all of you guys. I can't believe that all you guys actually liked. You know, not even the original Galaxy, but you know,
Galaxy is
that much.
I mean,
Didn't
just
even
because
bother
you're on the
playing
wrong
it.
side of history, Ryan, doesn't mean you have to take out your rage on all of us.
But, I mean, hey, I guess.
I kid. Galaxy is fantastic. I'm glad I'm not the only one who appreciates it. Because
I really like Galaxy. I think Galaxy 2 is certainly much less impressive, and I did not enjoy it nearly as much as Galaxy 1. So
it's still, like, in its construction, I think it's every bit as good as Galaxy 1. It's primarily that it came a few years later that it doesn't stand out as much. But
yeah, I guess that's what it is. To me, it didn't feel as like lively or or creative, maybe as or maybe as cohesive. I'm not quite
It was
sure
bad.
I'm not quite sure what it was that made the difference for me, but I wasn't excited about that game the same way as Galaxy 1.
It's interesting to me because we've been hard on some kind of cookie cutter sequels, but apparently Galaxy 2 has made it up really high on
I
their
think
list.
Galaxy 2 is not as cookie cutter as a lot of these. It is very much more Galaxy 1, but I think it introduces more. I think it experiments more around the periphery than a lot of these games do, in its newness. Like its level design is really creative. Like in some ways, Galaxy 2 might have better level design than even the first Galaxy. Like they really pulled out all the stops on that thing. Like it does some really cool stuff.
Well,
Or Super Mario Bros.
so
Getting upturned by all the Johnny on the blocks.
we're down to our top 4. And this is interesting because 2 of them are 3D, 2 of them are 2D.
Yep.
It's like it was destiny.
So
I think these are hands down the best 4. Like I think
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I think we got it.
No
Sorry,
comment.
Ryan, but we got it.
No comment.
I feel like probably the weakest game of these 4 is probably Mario Bros. 3, even though I would have Mario Bros. 3 at the top of my personal list, but I also think that as far as gameplay goes, it's definitely it's the oldest game, so it has the least amount of polish. I think that when you compare it to just these 4 specific games, I think Mario Bros. 3 is probably the one that's going to shake out at number 4 before we get into the bloodletting of the top 3.
Yeah, I would also put Mario Bros. 3 at the number 4. But I mean, Mario Bros. 3 is freaking fantastic. But yeah, I think I think the other 3 do stuff a little more special, especially when you think about World came out like a year after Mario Bros. 3, and I think World does like. In the way that 3 is a better Mario 1, I think World is a better 3 and like really blows that out in a really special way.
And like, honestly,
That much more,
yeah, I mean, like, I know that I am the only person on Earth that thinks this, so I'm not going to get into like an argument with it. But I think that Mario Bros. 3 is a better game than World, but I know that I am so far in the minority there. That's why I say, like, I think the reason why I like Super Mario Bros. 3 better is the same reason why I like Mario Kart 64 better. It was the first one that I played.
Right.
I think that's my problem there.
The Mario Kart Alpha Syndrome theory.
Yeah, like whatever the first one is the one that's like you're gung ho about, and for me that was Mario Kart 64. I think I'm doing that a little bit with Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, I actually played the NES Mario's before World, and I still like World better. Like it stands out. This gets hard because like these are all amazing games.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I think World, like the way it trumped 3 fairly thoroughly. Like I would totally, I like Mario Bros. 3 at number 4, but
okay. Ryan, what do you think?
Everyone else is good.
Well,
I think we know what Ryan thinks.
Well,
I mean, so excluding the obvious vote, I mean, I do think that 3 in the top bucket is one of the the weaker games, like especially above my 2 top picks, which would be 64 and World.
I think we're at the point where 64 and World are 1 and 2, and Galaxy and 3 are 3 and 4. It's just toggling those.
3 is interesting to me, so because I remember, like, I do remember enjoying it. I feel like I enjoyed some of the other games on this list more, but as I gave it some thought, I just remember, things like Giant World and Pipeland and the airships.
That cool stuff, the freaking Tanuki suit, man.
Yeah, the Tanuki suit, the Angry Sun, like you just keep remembering like all these.
Super Mario Bros. 3 is freaking cool.
Yeah, frog suit, like all this crazy cool stuff
that giant fish that was terrifying. I mean, like Super Mario Bros. 3 to me felt a lot more like magical in the way that you had no idea what was coming next. Like, the sun came out of the sky, holy crap, what is this? You know, like, I felt like every 2 or 3 stages with Mario Bros. 3, I was, like, surprised by something, or something was memorable. Where with Mario World, I can totally agree with, like, the better level design and this and that, but for me, Mario Bros. 3 had, like, a sense of mystery about it, where I'm on my 3rd stage, I know something crazy is going to happen. Holy crap, there's a tornado in this one, you know? So, like, that's where the sense of wonder kind of comes from with me, but, you know, I know that that's not necessarily something that's gonna win it over, which is why I'm fine with just putting it near the bottom of these 4.
Yeah,
They definitely do some cool creative stuff in there. Some of its levels can be kind of rote, and like the mechanics of it, like the feel of it, is maybe not as good as the later games. But man, Mario Bros. 3 introduced some. It feels like they had fun with that game. Like they were just like, yeah, let's just do some like fun, whimsical stuff. Like,
right.
You move left in some of the levels. How about that?
Yeah, that was crazy. You know.
Yeah, they go for it. It's an awesome game.
You guys are kind of making me want to go play Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, unless you guys are going to be persuaded to put Galaxy in the 4th slot, then I definitely wouldn't put it above World or 64. It's just a matter of whether you're persuaded on knocking Galaxy down a notch.
So, like, I feel like Mario Bros. 3 at number 4 is probably our consensus, and now we get into the bloodletting.
I think for this.
I think Super Mario Galaxy is number 3.
Yeah, I think there's no way around that for this conversation.
Well, since Fowler agrees, we're just going to skip this.
If you want me to make my argument that Galaxy is better than 64, I will go there. However, I know I am the only person who will go there, so I don't feel like it's worth my effort.
Yeah, not going to win that one.
Nope.
Where I will go, though, is that Super Mario World is the best Mario game ever made.
Not on my list, but
not on my list. No, I don't think so.
What did I tell you, Nate?
Yep.
So Nate, where do you stand on this? Or are we gonna make a democratic vote, or are we gonna have a split decision and just have to fight it out?
So, I mean, I think 64, World, and Galaxy are the best 3 Mario games in my book.
I agree.
For very different reasons. World is the best 2D game, and everything about it plays super well, and it has a super interesting, cohesive world with lots of alternate paths and weird secrets and things of that nature. And that's why I think World is special. 64, for me, the thing that makes that game special is...
You were 10 when it came out.
There is that. And I think it has the most expansive and exploration-focused level design of any of these games. And that, to me, is the thing that made me enjoy it so much. Because all of those levels in that game are just super fun to get in and mess around like a giant toy box. And you can find all these different objectives in each stage. Some of them are hidden, some of them not, or a little bit more directed. But every level is like poking at it and interacting with it and exploring it, and that basically doesn't get old in any of the levels for me.
I mean, Mario 64 to me is not only is it kind of crazy with like what it did. It's like not only was it the first 3D Mario game, but that game as a 3D game had no right to be as good as it was. No one had been doing 3D games. Like that was one of the first 3D games that came out. Period.
On the console.
Yeah, on console, right? And for them to nail it in not only in the ways that are like, the world and the level design. The camera was not great, but
if you go to try and play it now, the camera's actually pretty bad.
Yeah, but when that thing came out,
Yeah.
Mario, just him moving around.
I actually really, this is one of my favorite little details about Mario 64. I really like that when you first start that game and Mario jumps out of the pipe, they make a point to show you the Lakitu floating around holding the camera.
I was about to say the Lakitu camera.
Yeah, and then swing you around, because 3D games hadn't really had to think about the camera. Like, video games hadn't, by not being in 3D much, they hadn't had to think about cameras. So it's just one of those weird little, nice little Nintendo touches where, they actually think of the camera as, a fun thing to play with and put in the world and,
Right.
how the camera works. So it's just it's a fun little trick they did.
But that, I would have sort of expected, in, my little world, that Nintendo would have released Mario 64 somewhere near the end of the life cycle for the 64, so they would have had some time to figure out how 3D works with the camera and the platforming and stuff. But they just nailed it right out of the gate. I mean, that game came out in 1996. That was the launch title for the 64, and it was incredible in a way that 3D games of the day spent a year or 2 years just trying to catch up to, and they nailed it right out of the gate. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff with that game that the more that you look at it and the more that you sort of play around with it, but then you play other 3D contemporary games from that time period, wow, it is just head and shoulders above everything that was coming out right around that time.
I agree.
Yep.
It was a landmark title.
And it's better than Mario World.
So, I mean, in that same vein, I agree it's better than Mario World. Or not Mario World, the original Mario Bros.
No, we're done. All right, number one.
Record that clip now. I actually thought you said Mario Bros. Where I was going with this is that, whereas Mario Bros, was a huge landmark, and in some ways a more important landmark than actually in a lot of ways a more important landmark than Mario 64. And it got improved on later. I also think Mario 64 has been improved on later. Mario World, my argument for Mario World against 64 is that, they reached peak 2D Mario in 1991, and it has not been bested since. Whereas, Mario 64 has been improved on since.
Disagree.
Yeah, disagree.
On which point? That Mario World has not been bested, or Mario 64 has been bested?
That Mario 64 has been bested.
When was the last time you played Mario 64?
I got my new 64 and a copy of it in college, probably junior year, so that would have been 2010, so 6 years ago.
Yeah. If you go play Mario 64 and one of the newer 3D ones like Galaxy, side by side, the difference in control is noticeable.
It is a difference in control.
Yeah, Galaxy just feels better.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that it's a difference in control. I don't think it's a huge difference in control.
It's not,
but it is a difference.
But yeah, it's not make or break. But the point being is my point is that the 3D games have improved. Galaxy plays better. It's more creative with its level design. It has more galaxies. You were talking about being able to explore those worlds in Mario 64, which I 100% agree. Those worlds are really fun to explore, but I think the Galaxy games do that as well, and they have more worlds to explore. So in a way,
it's not the same thing, though. That's what I think
it is. What's the difference?
Had the exploration level of Mario 64.
I think you're selling some of those galaxies in Mario Galaxy Shore. There are some good explorative galaxies in there.
So
there are a couple.
And I'm not arguing for Galaxy to move up here. My point is that Mario 64 has been improved. This is
and that's what
to a
I'm
lesser
agreeing
degree
with.
Similar to Paul's arguments for Mario Bros getting knocked down.
I don't
that's
think
the argument I'm making here.
I don't think Mario 64 or Super Mario World have been improved on.
I feel like Super Mario World has been improved on. I think that I enjoyed New Super Mario Bros. More than I enjoyed Super Mario World. I'd still put Mario 3 above both of those two, but whenever I go back, or whenever I think back to the 2D Marios that I've played, the two that always jump out to me are Mario Bros. 3 and New Super Mario Bros. for the DS. So I would put Mario World at number 3 as far as the 2D games go.
I think Mario World freaking nailed it. I think that game, like some of the new Super Mario games might move a little smoother, but in terms of like level design and the overworld, like how ambitious that game got with its overworld, I think that is super special. Like I think like that game absolutely went farther with its secret exits and like its world state changing like map adjustments. Like it went way farther with that than any game, 2D or 3D. And even within its 2D levels, within its individual levels, like there's a lot of creativity there. Like you think about stuff like climbing on the grates, or like the Super Mario World levels can actually get pretty explorative as well. Like there's a lot, like in addition to the secret exits, like there's just a lot of weird little pockets and things to find, like depending on what power-ups you have access to and all of that. Those levels are surprisingly big and ambitious for being 2D levels, and like in addition to that, there's a lot of levels in that game. Like, and they even had like the Star Road and then like the Special Road levels. Like, there's just tons of stuff to that game. Like that game just has everything in it. And the freaking Ghost House puzzle levels, like there's just so much cool stuff in that game.
There's a Ghost House in 64 too.
Yeah, but it's not like... Well, first of all, there's one Ghost House in 64, and there are a lot of them in World.
Yeah,
but the point being is that the ghost houses in World are very specifically like puzzle levels, and the Ghost House in 64 is just it's another good 64 level, but it's just kind of like a different theme to it. Like it's still in line with the other Mario 64 levels. Like the Ghost House ones in World are a very different thing. I know I'm not going to win this fight because I'm outnumbered 3-1, but like I think hands down Mario World is the best Mario game. Like I don't think there's any way to really improve on that game. Like 64, it's not a huge leap from 64 to Galaxy, but like there's little refinements, like there's ways to tweak that. Like Mario World just freaking nails it top to bottom.
I mean, Nate said it. I think Nate said it really well in terms of my own experience with Mario World. Or Mario 64 rather, and again, Mario World is a great game. Like it's pretty much number 2 on my list. Like, but I guess that transition from 2D to 3D, like Paul was talking about, like it was just so inspired. Like, even though now if you go back and play it today, it feels really clunky. I think that's an easy thing to pick on for 3D games. Like Final Fantasy VII is a lot of people's, one of their highest.
Yeah. That early era of 3D, Mario 64 included, like it's a little rough now.
It's really easy to pick on that, but at the time,
the main reason I brought that up is because it's very much the same argument we had for the original Mario Bros, which was also a landmark game, but doesn't hold up as well.
Right.
So like I kind of view 64 in the same, like Mario Bros was the first Mario game and the first 2D game, of course, and then Mario 64 is the first 3D Mario game, and like I think both of those, like I think Mario 64 holds up better than the original Mario Bros, but I think both of those were games that introduced something and like were landmark games that like set new standards, but I think both of them have been improved on in the decades since. Like I think there's a similar thing there. And I do think Mario 64 holds up better than Bros. I'm not trying to say it's on the exact same level, but the argument's similar. Whereas I think World just nailed it. Like I think World is...
And I mean, again, World is coming at kind of at the technical pinnacle of 2D, like in a sense. Of course, if you pitted it against perhaps some of the 2D indie games of today, various like Metroidvania and Mario-style platformers. Like, it holds up pretty well, but those games mechanically and graphically probably, beat it out. Like,
Mario World still looks pretty darn good, actually.
yeah, I mean, it looks fine and it controls fine, but like, it's not as sharp as like, I don't know, maybe like in terms of controls as like maybe a Cave Story or something like that. One of those really like hyperactive 2D games, but
World still feels pretty good. But yeah,
but I mean that's kind of the point, is that you could find examples of where Mario in terms of controls has, maybe even in terms of platforming, has been bested.
I mean, I don't know in terms of like 2D like level design, and that's actually the main space where I think World, like even as 2D Mario games have continued to happen, like in the decades since Mario World, I can't think of a pure 2D platformer that has had like such a large number of varied levels in their design, and then also embedded that within a world map that is very dynamic with the secret exits and all the different power-ups and stuff. And freaking Yoshi got introduced in that game and is a baller. And drum beats kick in when you ride him.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a bigger story, because then we could get into like, where the Metroids and Castlevania sit and all that stuff in terms of 2D games and 2D, platformers and adventure games. But yeah, for me, it's kind of the same thing. Like the transition from 2D to 3D, yeah, it doesn't always hold up that well, but it was really magical. And to me, like Mario World, I mean, yeah, in terms of controls and graphics, it's clearly been bested, but in terms of like actually like from what I remember of the levels and it just being a memorable experience, and like Nate was saying, they had all these varied environments. A lot of them were Mario inspired, except for it was, now in kind of a pretty nice, at the time, a pretty nice looking 3D, like for that kind of, I don't know, quad based graphics engine they were using. Like, they had the Rainbow Cruise level, and you had like the tall mushrooms level and the ice, like the ice slopes level. Like to me, like any game, memory is not one of my stronger points, and anything that memorable is pretty big. And it's a game where like, I did all of the optional collectibles, because I think you only needed like 40 or 50 stars to mainline the game, and I remember getting all 120. Like, I don't think that's something I did with either of the new Mario, like Sunshine or Galaxy. Or, any, I don't know if I've done it with any other similar style 3D games since.
I actually did not get all 120 stars in Mario 64. The only ones I've gone all out on are World and Galaxy. But anyway,
yeah. When I got my 64, my new one in college, and this was after Galaxy had come out, so they were fairly close in playtime. I sat down and put in Mario 64 just to see if it worked, and expected to play it for 10 minutes, and ended up getting all 120 stars, just because it was so fun to jump back into that game.
Yeah, I did the same thing recently.
Yeah, they had not exactly Easter eggs, but almost like Easter eggs with all the little things you could discover. You had Yoshi after you collect. I hope this isn't spoiling it for anyone.
You don't ride Yoshi, though.
No, but it's like a little Easter egg.
All the games have Easter eggs, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, but which one did it first, right? Like,
probably the original Mario Bros.
Mario 3!
Something before 64, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in the era of modern collectibles.
So the main thing I'm thinking about, like, going on about this, and like, this is a fair argument for you guys to make, but like a lot of it's coming back to, this game was memorable because of these reasons, and like those reasons are things that all the Mario games do. Like,
well, that's what I was trying to say.
Are you talking about in the era of 64?
No, like across all Mario, like you're talking about like, I remember this world and this world. It's like I remember the Rainbow Cruise level, I remember the desert world or the ghost house or whatever. It's like all the Mario games have tons of variety. Like I could tell you about like the Space Junk Galaxy or the the Flip Switch Galaxy or the Gusty Garden Galaxy, like or I could tell you about the freaking Dinosaur Land in Mario World or the Forest of Illusion. Like all of the Mario games have memorable places, and like what makes them memorable to us is not necessarily, like, there are so many factors coming into that. Like, I think for our age group in particular, like, Mario 64 came out at a time, like, that it was going to hit and be memorable for us. Like, if you ask someone, like, 10 years older than us or 10 years younger than us, I would bet dollars to donuts that Mario 64 is a lot less memorable. And, like, while that doesn't negate the argument, I do think it's worth considering that, like, a lot of the other Mario games, be it World or Galaxy or whatever, like, I think they absolutely have moments every bit as memorable in the grand picture as Mario 64. It's just, like, for us and, like, where our nostalgia sits, like, we were at the right age for Mario 64. Like, I don't think Mario 64 is any better at that stuff than some of these other games. I think just for us, like, that's where it sits. And like that could be a reason for it to be our number one, is that we are the age for Mario 64. But, like, I think that's selling a lot of the other games short, because I think they do that stuff just as well.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely true, though, right? Because, and there is, I mean, definitely, we probably were the age of Mario 64, and again,
we were
like
10 to 12 when that game came out. We were absolutely the age for that game.
Like I said, the transition from 2D to 3D was magical, even though it's, much harder to appreciate.
And for people 10 years older than us, the transition from arcades to home consoles for Mario Bros. 1 was probably even more magical.
Right. So, I mean, those points are fair, but to me, like, the 3D Marios following 64 did not do it well.
See,
I mean,
that's where I disagree, is because people 10 years younger than us could play Super Mario Galaxy, and, like, I think those galaxies are every bit as memorable and impressive as the worlds in Mario 64. And I think, like, I honestly, like, the biggest difference to me there would just be age and, like, at what point of your life you played those.
Well, and so backing up on the Galaxy thing a little bit, I mean, let's look at the transition from 64 to Sunshine, right? Like, where does Sunshine sit on our list? Like,
because Sunshine's not as good of a game. I'm not saying Sunshine's, like, up here.
And I mean, Sunshine, like, I that game ended up growing on me. Like, I was really disappointed in it just as a pure sequel to Mario 64, because its environments were not as varied. Like,
totally
even
agree.
though it had some variety, like, and also the flood mechanic was, a bit jarring in terms of a sequel from the more kind of freestyle of the old Mario. But, like,
totally agree that Sunshine is not as memorable, like, does not have the level design or the variety to stand up. Like, absolutely agree on that. My point is just that Mario 64, like, its level of memorability, like, I firmly believe that there are other Mario games that do that particular point just as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Galaxy was not it. Like, nothing about that game was memorable.
Totally understand, and that's why I said, like, for our group, like, that argument, like, the fact that you guys find, like, 64 to be the most memorable, whatever the reason you find it to be more memorable, like, that can hold weight in our group. My entire point is, don't sell the other games short. Like, in particular, World and Galaxy, like, I don't sell them short on that point, because I think they're every bit as impressive. Just maybe not for us and when we played them, but I think they do. Basically, the stuff you're praising about 64, I think these other games do just as well, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't think we're trying to sell those games short at all. I do think that objectively 64, World, and Galaxy are all fantastic games, and I think they all have things about them that are unique to that game that none of the others do as well. I don't think you can say that World and Galaxy do everything that 64 does just as well.
I would say that.
And I mean, in terms of variety, like, and memorable environments,
variety.
I might even
ain't got nothing on Galaxy, but
I might even put, like, for example, Super Mario 3 above Super Mario World, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Galaxy has the variety and creativity. I absolutely agree.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. This shouldn't be a numbers game, but Galaxy has, according to this wiki, 42 galaxies, and Mario 64 has 15 levels. So, yeah, like,
those are not equivalent, though.
No, they're not. I 100% agree on that. I mean, both games have 120 stars, so, like, the size of the game is roughly the same. But, like, in terms of, like, trying out new things, like in terms of variety and like having different themed levels. Like Galaxy branches out a lot more in that.
Yeah.
And a few of its galaxies have like 6 to 8 stars in them, which is where the Mario 64 levels fit in. And like, to be fair, those are oftentimes my favorite worlds, and Mario 64 has more of those worlds, but I appreciate the mix of Galaxy. And I'm not trying to, I feel like this is getting off on a tangent because I'm not trying to make this a 64 versus Galaxy thing, but it's just all coming back to like, I think 64 is not like heads and shoulders above any of the other, or not any of the other games, but the other really good games in a lot of these aspects that you guys like. I don't think there's any one thing that 64 does, like other than being the first 3D game. I don't think 64 does anything that's like, oh, no Mario game has done this one thing better.
I think exactly what it does is the large level exploration. I think it does better than any other Mario game.
I think Galaxy's biggest explorative levels, which it has some of those, are absolutely on par with 64's.
I mean,
we can agree to disagree on that one, but
I don't know how we can argue that one out, but I remember playing Galaxy and finding some of those bigger levels and getting really excited, and then not finding them.
I also think the levels in 64 are maybe not as big as your memory has them be.
They're not necessarily huge. I'm not talking about just landmass. I'm talking about being an area full of interaction and pathways and nooks and crannies and things to do. Like,
yeah, even independent of the stars, but the game also gave you a lot of incentive to go back to those areas and like explore different parts,
right? Like,
and change things up.
Like, I don't have any specific examples because my memory is also not very good, but I do specifically remember a couple of Galaxy worlds that at first looked large and explorative, but then like after running around for a minute, like not even trying to find stars, just like running around and seeing what the world was, realizing that it was just kind of mostly empty and there wasn't a lot there. And I remember having that feeling specifically with at least one Galaxy.
The Mario Galaxy levels, like they are a lot more variable in size, and there absolutely are galaxies that are smaller, but they're the biggest galaxies, from what I remember, are absolutely on par with 64's levels.
Yeah, and again, I'm not talking about landmass. There are large landmass.
Yeah, I'm not either. When I say as big, I mean in terms of like nooks and crannies and things to explore.
Yeah, I never felt like I got that from Galaxy. Galaxy is a great game, and it's super creative and varied, but it's more, use this term that sounds bad, but I don't mean it bad, it is a more linear game than World, or 64, or World, probably.
In the grand scheme, yes, because it has some of the offshoot galaxies, but I do think its biggest galaxies are open and explorative. But that's, again, we're getting off on tangents here.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter to our discussion. But
yeah.
I
also think World, like Super Mario World, despite being a 2D game, I also think it has a lot of very explorative levels. Like there are levels in there where like you have to get some crazy power up, or like bounce off enemies in some weird ways, or like do something to get up to some crazy place and like grab a key or an item and then like take that somewhere else. Like there's a lot of areas to poke around in a lot of those levels that are really creative, and like they get a ton of mileage out of that.
I would not argue at all that World and Galaxy don't have explorative aspects to them. I'm saying that 64 does that better, or as a more core focus of the game, maybe. Like 64
it may be a more consistent focus of the game.
And whether that's your favorite or not is obviously personal preference, but that's why I love that game more than any of these other ones.
Right.
I mean, I also feel like for what it's worth, the Mario 64 levels were incredibly dense. I mean, they might not have been the biggest in terms of, actual, cubic volume or square meters or whatever, math that you want to throw at it. Yeah, but I do feel like that part of the stuff that made Mario 64 feel so sort of big and so exploratory was, number one, the hub world, which was, Peach's Castle, that thing had secrets all on its own, and it was empty. So you were just running around, and you're like, what is going on here? But then anytime that you would jump into one of the paintings or jump into one of the worlds, like you like would notice something new almost every time that you jumped in, and that's obviously to a certain degree, but that's part of having all the stars per world, because you would like the very first world that you ran into, you ran to the top of the mountain, you killed King Bomb Bomb, you got the first star, and then it's like, wait, there were 5 other stars in there somewhere, and then you like run back in, and it's like, holy crap, I didn't even see this last time. And that's kind of the feeling that I would get a lot when I was playing Mario 64, was there's always something that you've missed, so you should always go back in and dig around.
Yeah, though some of it they actually would like change where stuff was placed or whether stuff was in there depending on which star you selected to go in to get. So like it wasn't necessarily that you missed it the first time. There actually would sometimes be stuff that wasn't even there the first time. But
you're right.
Totally is that.
And I also think a lot of the levels are maybe a little more barren. Like if you load up Bomb on Battlefield, it's actually like kind of in the classic like early 3D sense, 3D games of that era. Like there's actually like not a lot populating the screen. Like there will be like a big flat expanse and then like 3 Goombas just kind of like waddling around over like a relatively large area. So like they're not quite as dense as like maybe we remember them being when we were 10 or 12, but I mean there is good stuff to explore, and I do really you do remind me of the one thing that I do think 64 does that none of the other games really tried, was have the connective hub that has secrets to find. Like Peach's Castle was mostly pretty barren and like was just like a glorified level select menu in a lot of ways, but they did put some neat little secrets in there, and that's one thing that's probably not really been replicated.
Yeah, but I mean the thing is, like I would not go so far as to call Peach's Castle a glorified level selector. There is so much there. There's the moat that eventually drains, and then that's how you get the metal hat. There's Yoshi up top. There's a cannon outside.
Man, Yoshi doesn't do squat in that game.
But the thing is like you don't expect to find anything.
It's a nice Easter egg, yeah.
Yeah, but and that's just like part going back to the exploration.
You know what game has more Yoshi in it?
Yoshi's
Mario
Island.
World.
Yeah. Whatever. Worst part of that game. But no, I mean, it's just there's just like a feeling that there was always something else that you didn't know was there, so it always drove you to poke around, even if you had completely explored something. You still poke around a lot. And I think that that's sort of what a game like Mario World doesn't do for me, is once I finish a stage that I know does not have a secret exit, I'm never going to go back to that stage again.
How do you know it doesn't have a secret exit?
Because you can generally tell on the overworld maps which game like which stages have secret exits. Like you can generally see this, like, hey, there's another path here, so I'm going to go back to this particular level. Whereas whenever you're running around in Mario 64, yes, how many stars are in each of the stages, but I still feel like it's more open.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was going to say about Mario 64. Is like it tells you, like, you select. Like when you go into a level, it'll bring up all the stars in that level, and then you choose one of the stars to go for, and that's the star you get in that run. So like there's really not, like, you're not going to stumble upon a secret star that it doesn't show you is in there. Like
I mean, you
can. Yeah.
So like if there are 6 stars in a world, like when you go in for star 1, you could potentially get star 5. But if you get star 1 and then star 2, like, it'll eventually say, hey, there's still a star 5 in here. Like, it'll eventually say, like, there's no way to really miss that. Like, it'll lay them out for you in order. You can go out of order if you happen to, but it'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, I think that's just guiding the exploration. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think it's a problem either. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not like there's as many hidden secrets. Like, that stuff's not as hidden as maybe you're making it out to be.
It's not necessarily hidden, but it's that these worlds, for the most part, are large, or at least somewhat large, like large enough to feel like you have to traverse them, right? Like, and fairly densely populated with these interconnected ways to move around. And there are different stars at different points that require a different challenge or different activity to do. So I don't know that anything is hidden much in that game other than some of the hidden stuff in Peach's Castle, but it's always a loop of going into the level, seeing some stuff that you didn't notice before, or getting a hint from the star sort of naming conventions they use to try and push you in the right direction, and going into the world and pushing the buttons and seeing what happens and trying to find that next star. And
Right. I guess for me, like, that's not, like, going in, seeing the name of the star you're going for, and then going into the level and traversing it and getting the star. Like, I guess that to me doesn't feel that different from what Super Mario World does, or Super Mario Galaxy, or Super Mario Bros. 3. Like, all of them, you're entering a level and traversing stuff, and along the way it could be explorative, but you're traversing through a level and getting to that goal at the end.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're all three sides of a coin, because we have a three-sided coin. But
really, I want to see this coin.
This is impressive.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive scientific feat there.
But yeah, it always comes back to me that Super Mario 64, I feel like first and foremost is designed to be an explorative game, and that's what it does better than any other game, and that's what I like about it.
I personally think Super Mario World is every bit as explorative. And I guess that's the argument I've been trying to make, is like, I think a lot of the things you're propping up that only Mario 64 does, or that it does best, like, I think these other games, particularly World and Galaxy, do very well. And like, I think World has a lot of those explorative qualities as well.
Yeah, and I mean, World does other things better.
Yeah, I think World, like, I mean,
that's the end-all be-all, but that's what makes it stand out to me as my favorite.
And like, and the reason Mario World is my favorite, again, I'm not winning this 3-on-1 argument, but I guess to wrap up, and like, why Mario World is my favorite is because, as I already said, like, I think as far as how ambitious it does things, and like it simultaneously has the ambition and the execution, like, above, in my mind, all the 2D games. Like, it does the 2D Mario games as well as anything, and like, it's also the only one, 2D or 3D, that has that kind of an overworld with stuff to, like, with the secret exits and everything. And like, I think even, like, not limiting to 2D, like, its power-ups are some of the most fun. Like, I think it has some of the best, most creative level design. Like, for me, it comes down to, like, I think Mario World, like, there's no real weak link in there. Like, I think that is Mario, like, at its best in top form.
No argument there. Like, that game is extremely polished and well designed and well thought through in every aspect. And
I think
that they set out and made, like, a really strikingly near perfect vision of what they wanted Mario Bros. To be when they made that. Like,
yeah,
I guess that's what that game does feel like that, and I wouldn't disparage it in any way.
Yeah, and that's why like, when talking about Mario 64, like, I think everything Mario 64 does well, I think World also does well. Like, I think it's just, like for me, World is the top dog for sure. And I won't track this out any longer. But like,
a great number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm just purely outnumbered on this one, but
you missed, and perhaps it's the most important slot, but you missed yours by 1 position. I missed mine by 14 positions, so don't feel too bad.
Wait, are you saying
he wanted Galaxy to be at the bottom?
Oh, whatever. That ain't happening.
Like I said.
All right, so we now have a fully ordered list from 1 to 17.
Yep. As science has dictated.
As science has dictated. Do you want to run through it, Fowler?
Sure. All right. At number 17, we got Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. Number 16 is New Super Mario Bros. U. Number 15 is New Super Mario Bros. 2. Number 14 is Super Mario 3D World. Number 13 is Super Mario Sunshine. 12 is New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Number 11 is Super Mario Land. 10 is Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Number 9 is Super Mario Bros. 2. 8 is New Super Mario Bros. 7 is Super Mario 3D Land. 6 is the original Super Mario Bros. 5 is Super Mario Galaxy 2. 4 is Super Mario Bros. 3. Number 3, entering the top 3 here, Super Mario Galaxy 1. Number 2 is Super Mario World, the real winner. And number 1 is Super Mario 64, everyone's most nostalgic game of all time.
It's only the best Mario of all time, as dictated by science. And I mean, really, when I look back over this list,
there is only a 95% confidence interval on our tests here, so there is a small margin of error.
So you're saying that Super Mario Galaxy is actually at the bottom?
No, the margin of error is not that large, but it could lead to a flip-flop on like adjacent positions. It is big enough to allow for that. So
I mean, I kind of feel like whenever I go back down the list, I pretty much agree with everything except for the placement of Mario Bros. At number 6. I feel like that should just sort of like I feel like it should probably go somewhere around 10, and then everything else just jump up, or 9. Like,
yeah.
Well, if there's only one thing you disagree with, that's probably doing.
Yeah.
Actually,
So I mean, I think it's pretty good.
Like reading through this list, it's like there are like little things I would jigger around personally, but like as far as like collecting our thoughts on it, this list feels pretty accurate based on our discussions, excluding Ryan's weird. Like, I just want to watch the world burn hatred for Mario Galaxy. Like, all of this feels pretty in line with our discussion. Like, I like it. I think the list is good.
Yep. We picked the best
I
number
mean,
one.
hey,
Nostalgia.
we said it was subjective. It was the one I enjoyed the least. It actually kind of dragged.
Yeah. I mean, I knew going in. I told Nathan this like a few days ago. It's like, I know I'm not going to be able to take down Mario 64, but like, excluding that, like the list is, I like the list, and I like Mario 64 a ton as well. I'm not trying to put it down, but I think it's anyway.
You're just gonna keep blaming nostalgia, even though.
No, and that's not the only reason you guys like it. I know, but
This is how it feels, Flex. This is how it feels to be on the.
Hey, Mario 64 is a good game. I'm not trying to tear down a good game and say it's number 17. That's for crazy people.
Well, you were talking about nostalgia, artificially buoying games. Certainly talk about that. But
See, that's how I tried to get Mario 64 down. I tried invoking your Mario Bros. 1 argument. Nobody was buying it, so apparently it only applies to that game.
well, I'm sorry.
It didn't work,
it only
it didn't
applies
work
to
for
bad
that
games.
one either.
Yeah.
It
It only
didn't work
applies
for
to
the
bad
first
Here we go.
one.
mechanics.
After saying we like
All
the
right.
list, here's how we
Let's
start.
We like the
Call
list.
this thing now. We gotta go.
Y'all are wrong. I'm making my own list.
It's set in
There's no
stone. No more
science
changes.
here.
We have officially and scientifically ranked the Marios.
Post it to Wikipedia. It's official.
Yeah, we put it on Wikipedia page called Ranking of Marios.
According to this discussion, Super Mario 64 is the best Mario.
Which,
of all
by the
time.
way, none of us are qualified to have this discussion at all. We are
I don't know
not
what you're talking.
scientists.
Yeah.
We are
I
not
don't-
scientists.
What? What are you talking about, Paul? I don't understand. We are clearly the most scientific people on the planet.
Well, this scientist clearly needs to go find something to eat for dinner because we've been talking about Marios for the last 3 hours.
All right.
I think we should probably start wrapping this up.
Yep, this was a lot of fun. We should totally do this again.
Hey, we haven't ranked Zeldas, have we?
Oh,
Nope.
boy.
Oh, that's
That's gonna get real weird.
that's coming up.
Zelda 2 at the bottom. All right.
I think some real
Parent
blood will
tracks,
get
anybody?
real blood will get shed whenever Zelda's and Final
Are you saying
Fantasies come
shields
up.
will shatter and blades will bleed?
Oh,
Shields
God.
shatter, blades bleed.
And on that note,
All right.
Thank you for listening, everyone, to whatever this was.
we have ranked Marios somehow.
Somehow
books.
indeed. Somehow indeed.
Thanks, everyone. That was a lot of fun.
All right, we'll see you
Thanks,
guys later.
Later.
Signing off.